garden or park strips or, well, you get the idea. But where do you get good old-fashioned cobblestone? The dirt bag. Imagine the things you can do with it in your yard and garden. If you have an imagination, the dirt bag has what you need to bring that dream to life. Rock mulch? How about 11 different rock mulches? Playground chips for the kids? Yep, the dirt bag. For topsoil, sod, bark mulches, and pathway material called chat, the dirt bag. And with a dirt bag, your garden and yard you have in your imagination can be delivered right to your driveway. Or you can pick it up in bulk yourself. There's a reason everyone loves the dirt bag. Find out what the dirt bag can do for you at thedirtbag.com. Thedirtbag.com. You hear that? That's the sound your new water makes just before it gets to your bottle. You see, at Little Spring Water, they don't add a thing. It's the purest, cleanest, and healthiest water you can possibly drink. It's nature in a bottle. Little Spring Water is a family-owned and operated bottled water company right here in Utah, nestled in a beautiful canyon in Bear Lake. This spring has been in the family for 5 generations, and now it can be in yours as well. It's high-quality premium spring water packaged in a durable, recyclable bottle that won't spill or crack on you and can be refilled multiple times. No chemicals, no additives, just pure, clean, healthy water. And because Little Spring Water is local, you can get it at a fraction of the cost. Look for Little Spring Water at a grocery store near you. If you don't see it, ask a grocer for it by name. It is available at Lee's Marketplace and Ridley's Family Markets. Little Spring Water. It's nature in a bottle.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Time again for traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Andy, I still see some slowdowns out there on the south end of the valley.
Yep, traffic trying to get into Utah County has been really difficult this morning because of a crash near the Bluffdale exit, adding a bunch of time to a drive that normally has no slowdowns at all. And so we're still seeing that around the Bangerter exits about a half mile before it's where the delays begin now. And then once you pass the crash, you're just fine. North 15's all delays have cleared out. Still have a little bit of slowdowns on 215 south end at the State Street exit for traffic heading east. Advanced Window Products, affordable windows from their factory to your front door in 8 weeks guaranteed. 801-850-9100 or advancedwindowsusa.com. I'm Andy Farnsworth in the KSL Traffic Center.
A few scattered thunderstorms could pop up again today, mostly in the mountains this time. We should see a high of 96, 100 tomorrow. How about 104 on Saturday? And if you want even more, it might even get to 105 on Sunday. Right now it's pleasant out there, 74 degrees. At KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
We're going to get you inside perspective this morning in the first hour of our show on this lawsuit that has been filed in the GOP primary race to get the Republicans' choice, Celeste Malloy, kicked off the primary ballot. We've got an interview with the Republican who's suing her, as well as KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas to let us know if he feels this lawsuit has any chance.
I didn't even know that was a possibility, that you could get somebody kicked off the primary ballot.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Republicans suing Republicans. Okay.
That, you know what? That might be even crazier. It's 9:08. It's time for the launch.
Sequence engaged.
And here are 3 things Debbie wants you to know.
Countdown. 3.
Yeah, we got word this morning that 4,000 Utahns are going to receive $200 million in student loan forgiveness. You heard that right. Their loans are being forgiven. Who qualifies? How do they claim it? We're going to speak to a financial aid expert in the 10 o'clock hour.
Okay, Deb, if you're thinking of student loans in Utah as a pie, this is a slice of 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 a slice. That's who's affected. But if you're lucky enough to be affected, you'll get on average $50,000 of loan forgiveness.
Countdown. 2.
Well, this is a wild story about a Utah teenager. I think she's 14 years old. She's now recovering after being stranded overnight in the Narrows in Zion National Park. This would be my worst nightmare as a parent. My child stranded somewhere in a national park. She got separated from her hiking group, spending the night in the cold and alone in the canyon.
It was definitely terrifying. I was so scared that I was going to get stuck in there.
All right, Mom. We're going to get Mom on the line in the 11 o'clock hour. Aloha's mom calling the show to tell us more.
It still shocks me that we do this, that we take our children out on adventures. We seem to do these stories so often about kids getting lost. We can't find them, search and rescue. But we keep doing it. We keep packing everybody up and taking them on a hike. It's so easy to get lost or separated from the group. So happy that everything turned out all right.
Launch countdown 1.
All right, let's face it. This is the political drama of primary election season, right? A Republican suing a Republican, get her tossed from the race for the 2nd Congressional District here in Utah. It's Denning versus Malloy. Celeste Malloy is Utah's Republican Party's choice to be on the primary ballot in September. But fellow Republican Quinn Denning filed a lawsuit saying Malloy should be disqualified as a candidate under Utah law and that the lieutenant governor's office should not have certified her to be on the ballot in the first place.
She wasn't an active voter, and so based on the law, she couldn't be a Republican candidate.
Debbie, this is such a strange thing for me to process. Number one, like you said, Republicans were suing Republicans, trying to get somebody taken off the ballot. Is this really a question about Celeste Malloy's Republican credentials? Because remember, folks, you may not know this, she was chief counsel to current Representative Chris Stewart, a staffer. So I'm not so sure her Republican credentials are in question. So what's going on here? Is it sour grapes, or should she sincerely not be on this ballot? Did she not follow the rules? We'll figure this out.
Dave and Dujanovic.
The Launch.
Commence.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
Well, let's start with the legalese in the lawsuit. And actually, the legalese is pretty easy for the average person like myself to understand. So I thought I'd just read this part of it to you. It makes it pretty clear. The allegations by Denning, and by the way, we're going to speak to him in just a few minutes live, is that Malloy was not a member of the Utah Republican Party when she declared her candidacy. And Malloy also had not legally established her residency in Utah at the time she declared her candidacy. Both, it's alleged, are requirements to qualify as a candidate. Now, Denning did speak to KSL News Radio yesterday, just after the news of the lawsuit broke, right here on our show.
I'm not looking to change the election for me. My whole goal is to bring election integrity and election transparency to light.
Now, if you're trying to figure out, well, kind of what are you talking about? Mr. Denning was at the GOP convention, had gone up against Celeste Malloy. He had lost, and she ultimately was the winner.
Yeah, she was the winner, and her name was forwarded by the Republican Party, which nominated her to be their nominee on the primary ballot in September, forwarded by the party to the lieutenant governor's office. And in fact, the lieutenant governor also named in the lawsuit. But curiously, and we'll get into this just a little bit later, and I want to ask Mr. Denning this, why he didn't name the Republican Party in his lawsuit. Lindsay Aert's been tracking developments for us here at KSL News Radio. What's Malloy saying about this, Linz? Has she said anything yet?
Yeah, good morning, guys. Well, Malloy is actually calling this a distraction from the facts that she says her opponents would rather forget that she won resoundingly at the convention and that the party made its decision. So she's really chalking this up to this isn't going to go anywhere and this is just a distraction. But when you say that Denning is suing to restore election integrity, he tells me that he didn't actually want to include Malloy on the lawsuit, but there was really no way around it, he says. So he really takes issue with the fact that the lieutenant governor certified her when he claims she wasn't a registered Republican, and because she did that and then didn't tell the Utah GOP before the convention that wasn't, on its face honest or whatever he's claiming, but
transparent.
Transparent, yeah, is the word he used. And so that's kind of where Denning is coming from. But this lawsuit really gets down to the day that she declared her candidacy, and that would have been June 12th of this year. That is the day, and when she filed, the suit alleges that she wasn't a registered Republican, and 3 days later, she became one when she filed her registration in Iron County. Now, this question of kind of like, we know from our reporting she was on a removable voter list, and the removable voter list basically takes you off of an eligible voter list. And so being removed from the eligible voter list, does that mean you weren't registered even when you were on Utah's voter rolls and could have voted in Utah by just calling the county clerk and say, hey, I want to be an active voter again? So there's kind of some weediness when it comes to election law and the technicalities of whether or not she was technically a registered Republican. But the suit claims she wasn't, and claims thus she couldn't have been affiliated with the Republican Party.
Are ballots being printed yet?
Yeah. So I talked to Salt Lake County yesterday, and they've already printed their ballots. So we know that a judge is going to have to move really quickly on this if they're going to take any action. Now, in my talks with county clerks, sometimes what happens is if a candidate gets disqualified after a ballot is printed, then clerks can send out a notice and just say, hey, just letting you know, voters, an insert in the mail-in ballots that says, hey, this candidate has been disqualified. But it would stand to reason that if Celeste Malloy's name is on a printed ballot and she does end up getting qualified, which experts are telling me is not likely, that anyone who voted for Malloy in the primary, their vote just wouldn't count.
Lindsay Ertz, thank you for the update.
Next, let's ask Quinn Denning live, even though he's already spoken to us here at KSL News Radio about his lawsuit.
I'm not looking to change the election for me. My whole goal is to bring election integrity and election transparency to light.
Let's ask him if a judge does disqualify Malloy from the ballot. What does he want to happen then?
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
This Pioneer Day, take KSL along, whatever adventure your family has planned. Tim and Amanda have important news and weather, blazing a trail each morning from 5 to 9. Get analysis from Dave and Dujanovic at 9 and Boyd Matheson at 1. And Jeff Kaplan has important updates and his minute of news as you caravan home. We round up everything you need to know in one place. KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Are you suffering from excruciating headaches, anxiety, and insomnia? You may be suffering from CMS, crappy monitor syndrome. That old computer screen from years ago could be the problem, exposing you to massive amounts of radiation frying your brain. At PC Laptops, we only carry screens that we've tested on our own eyeballs. Right now, purchase any PC Laptops desktop with an external monitor and get a free size upgrade. That's right. For example, if you buy a 22-inch monitor, you get an upgrade to 24 inches for no extra charge. Buy a 24, get an upgrade to a 27-inch monitor for free. We have brand new PC Laptops desktop computers starting from $11.99 or $29 a month, backed by a lifetime warranty. And to make it extra sweet, we're doing 0 interest for a year on approved credit. So run into any one of our PC Laptops locations right now or check us out at PCLaptops.com. That's PCLaptops.com. Because at PC Laptops, we love you.
Well, summer's here, and of course, a lot of activities come along with it. But if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling sluggish, if you're not feeling good about yourself, you may just find yourself missing summer sitting on the couch. It's time to shift the game.
SOTA Weight Loss, SOTA, stands for state-of-the-art weight loss because it is state-of-the-art, is your path to actually be able to get out and enjoy your summer. The pounds and inches fall away because it's based on science. You have your own nutritionist and coach to help you along the way. And I'm not the only one who's had great success. I lost 37 pounds, got me off the couch, got me back engaged in all kinds of activities, and you can do the same. It's really simple. You've heard me say it before. When it comes to your SOTA weight loss journey, there's no time to lose. There's only time to win. So start winning. Summer's just right here, and it's a great chance for you to get in the game, get control of your health and wellness, and project a better future. Check it out at sotaweightloss.com, SOTA weightloss.com.
Looking for a trusted oral surgery practice? Look no further than Aspire Surgical. With a team of highly skilled and experienced board-certified oral and facial surgeons, Aspire Surgical offers a variety of surgical services, from wisdom teeth removal to dental implants to facial cosmetics. At Aspire Surgical, patient comfort and safety are top priorities. Their state-of-the-art facilities and advanced techniques ensure that patients receive the best possible care in a comfortable and safe environment. Visit their website at aspiresurgical.net or call 385-474-4952 to schedule a consultation today. Trust Aspire Surgical for all your oral surgery needs. Visit aspiresurgical.net or call 385-474-4952 to schedule a consultation today. Aspire Surgical, where your aspirations become a reality.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's. Not feeling a burger? We've got you covered. Try one of our hot ribeye, turkey, or BLT sandwiches, and you'll understand why we say JCW's, quality, and a lot of it.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, fire investigators say the power lines were down near where a fire broke out this morning along Beck Street and a rail yard, but the investigation of what exactly took place is ongoing. Second, a Layton woman and her children are missing after it looks like they packed up for a trip. And third, a Clearfield woman has died after a tree fell on her while she was riding a bicycle. We're going to look for a high today of 96. Right now, a really pleasant 74 degrees. Now back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
And that top local story today is this political drama. It's the reason for the season, right? Political drama. Republican suing a Republican. Actually suing Republicans. Suing not only the GOP's choice here in Utah for Congressional District 2 in the primary ballot, but also the lieutenant governor. Celeste Malloy was Utah's Republican's choice to be on the ballot in September, but fellow Republican Quinn Denning, who we're going to speak to live in just a moment, filed a lawsuit. That happened yesterday, saying that she should be disqualified as a candidate under the law.
My whole motivation is election integrity and election transparency, and I don't think we've had either one of those.
This conversation has sucked a lot of the air out of the room. In fact, I asked a very, very conservative voter, very active, right of Rush Limbaugh, very, very conservative, who follows politics. And I asked her, hey, what do you know about Celeste Malloy? And she said, what was it? She's not really a Republican? That's the story that's stuck in her brain. I'm like, well, here's the concern. Is this the spirit of the law or is this the letter of the law? Because the spirit of the law tells me Celeste Malloy is unquestionably a Republican. I mean, she was working as the chief counsel for Representative Chris Stewart in Washington. She was endorsed personally by Representative Chris Stewart. I don't think her Republican credentials are really in question here. But this lawsuit, this conversation, it has definitely put that into question right now.
Oh, let's back up just a bit. Let's set the scene. Malloy wins the delegates' vote at the Utah GOP convention, which happened in June. Then a controversy arises. She wasn't properly registered as a Republican, had been residing in Virginia, in Arlington, Virginia, where she worked, as you stated, for Representative Chris Stewart. And the lieutenant governor, who's in charge of the elections, issued a statement, I believe a series of statements, saying Malloy did meet all the requirements, and did place her name on the ballot. Quinn Denning, you lost at the Republican convention to Celeste Malloy. Actually, I think technically you backed out of the voting at some point. You're now suing Malloy and Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. She said that Malloy meets the requirements. Why don't you believe her?
Are you asking me the question now?
Yes, yeah. Why don't you believe her?
Number one, the lieutenant governor did not follow the law that is written by the legislature. The legislature came out and made a statement that they didn't believe that she had followed the law. We looked at it and we felt the same way. Law is made up of technical components. When you undertake to ignore those technical components, you're breaking the law. That's what happened. Then when you brush it under the rug and you don't let the Republican Party know about it, then you're being subversive. And that's the action that creates a lot of question in people's minds about election integrity. We've got to have more transparency. And to have been transparent would have been to allow everybody to know what had transpired and give them the opportunity to either vote on it or to do something according to the rules of the Republican Party about it. None of those things happened.
Was this perhaps an honest mistake, a paperwork error, or are you genuinely concerned about whether or not Celeste Malloy is a Republican?
This, from her perspective, it could have been an honest mistake. But from the lieutenant governors, I don't believe that. That's where the problem lies. We've got to have more transparency from our elected officials that are running our elections.
Well, I'm going to push back on that. I don't see any evidence at all that the lieutenant governor made a mistake. I believe, I'm certain that they would have consulted with their legal experts in the lieutenant governor's office. I don't. And in fact, I'm looking at Celeste Malloy's resume here. BYU law grad, member of the Utah State Bar, deputy Washington County attorney as recently as 2017. Washington County Water Conservancy District, where she served in 2019. She's been a resident of Utah, and she's worked in Utah at least, and also a BYU student. It seems like under your interpretation of this, Mr. Denning, Utahns couldn't serve, for example, in the military or could not serve a church mission overseas for a number of years and run for office in their home state.
Well, if you want to twist the law that way, then that is twisting the law. The law states that she has to be a resident, and there's certain requirements that have to be met to be termed a resident. Those requirements were not met. There's also the law that talks about
what requirements weren't met. I guess maybe that's the question I have. I'm not clear on how those requirements weren't met or what she violated.
You'd have to read the lawsuit to see, and I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not going to address those.
But it's your lawsuit, right? I mean, you've got to be able to tell me kind of basically why she's not a Utah resident.
She did not maintain her residency here. It's pretty simple. The requirements to maintain a residency are pretty simple. She didn't do it.
What are they? If they're so simple to explain, I honestly don't know. I'm sorry. What do you have to do?
There's legal things that she had to do. One of those is to maintain her voter registration. She didn't do that. That's one of the first and foremost. And she allowed that to lapse. And her voter registration technically she was supposed to be removed from the voter rolls in January of this year. I don't know whether that was done or not. I haven't seen any of the documentation. But that's one of those requirements to maintain your residency.
Well, those are your allegations. If this lawsuit proceeds, certainly she would have an opportunity to respond to those allegations that you just outlined. But if a judge does disqualify Malloy from the ballot, we're going to get into the legal aspects of that a little later on in this hour, Mr. Denning. But there's a chance the Republican Party would not have a nominee or their nominee on the primary ballot. And instead, you got two signature gatherers on there.
We don't see that as a chance because by law, the Republican Party is supposed to be allowed to replace a candidate that was disqualified.
Okay.
And so they have a process to do that. And I expect that's what they'll do.
And let me ask you finally, before we let you go, why did you not sue the Republican Party? They're the ones that held the convention. Certainly they could have vetted the candidates at convention to see about these qualifications that you're speaking about. And the Republican Party, the Utah Republican Party, forwarded Malloy's name to the lieutenant governor's office, yet you don't name them in the lawsuit.
The reason we didn't name them is because we felt that they were damaged just as much as we were, as candidates. That information was kept from the Republican Party until after the convention.
Or are you not suing the Republican Party because you don't want to get sideways with your own party?
No, this has to do with the principles. The action that we don't like came from the lieutenant governor's office. That's where the election integrity, the principles of election integrity were violated, and we did not have any election transparency.
Quinn Denning, thank you for joining us and explaining your position.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, Mr. Denning. We'll, of course, continue to track the developments on that lawsuit. And in a few minutes, we'll have KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas weigh in as to whether he thinks this lawsuit has a chance.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes. Let's look at some of our top stories this half hour. 4,000 Utahns are going to get student debt relief from the U.S. government.
The Biden administration says it will be able to pay out $39 billion across the country and promise student loan relief. It's been a long time back and forth battle to get the initial plan up and running. Here in Utah, that settled out to about $200 million in debt relief. Borrowers who still qualify have been emailed by the U.S. Department of Education, and the debt relief will go into effect in 30 days. Kate Davis, KSL News Radio.
Sandy police officers are searching today for a missing young adult described as at risk because she has high-functioning autism. She's 19 years old and was last seen wearing a black spaghetti-strap shirt with black sweatpants. Anyone with information is being asked to please call police. Our top national story now from ABC News. A tornado in North Carolina caused extensive damage and shut down a stretch of freeway for hours. Joyce Payne's home in one neighborhood was among many that were damaged.
Whatever we had, you panic and you do the best you can.
Officials say at least 13 people were treated for minor injuries. And drug maker Pfizer says they're seeing promising results for an experimental vaccine targeting strep. They're working on a shot to give to expected mothers who will pass those antibodies to their children. Experts say this kind of strep is linked to 150,000 infant deaths a year, so the vaccine could save many lives. Let's take a look at how the markets are doing this morning. It's mixed. The Dow is up about 270 points. It's a long winning streak now for the Dow that looks like it may extend to another day, up almost 0.75%. The S&P is down, however, by 13, and the NASDAQ is taking a hit by about 163 points this hour. Coming up, temps climb just in time for your Pioneer Day fun. We'll check the weekend forecast next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
Here's Jake Harwood of Harwood Farms. Hi, I'm Jake. I'm a farmer, and I grow corn.
Jake, I can taste your fresh, locally grown corn already.
We pick and deliver it fresh throughout the day to our green roadside stands all over Utah County.
That'd be Lehigh, American Fork, Pleasant Grove, Orem, Provo, Springville, Spanish Fork, and Payson.
Salt Lake County.
Murray, Draper, and Sandy.
San Pete and Juab.
Mount Pleasant, Ephraim, Nephi, and Delta.
And let's not forget Heber and Tooele.
Wouldn't think of it. Check them all at harwardfarms.com.
Fresh from our family's farm to your family's dinner table.
Harward Farms.
Hey, summer's here, and it's only getting hotter. Get 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for a year on a new day and night air conditioning system.
Don't put it off. Summer is here, and it's hot. Have a new day and night air conditioner and furnace system installed with 0 down, 0 interest, and 0 payments for 12 months. Enjoy savings and a cool, comfortable home for a full year before you even have to make a payment. Go to dayandnightcomfort.com for a day and night elite dealer near you. The difference is day and night.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios?
No. We tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our client's best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Everybody knows that exterior remodeling salespeople are all about the high-pressure sell. Am I right? Windows, siding, gutters, those suckers are going to twist your arm and get you to buy, or they won't leave your house at night. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and I want you to know we don't have high-pressure sells. In fact, we don't even have salespeople. Nope. We have estimators. That's a huge difference. Estimators are trained to look at the entire scope of the project, to see and know if there are any problems like rotten wood, wood-borne insects, or construction issues specific to your house or your neighbors. Salespeople are more concerned about playing those silly price games. Buy one, get one free, sign today and get 40% off, as if they didn't just jack the price up to give you a fake discount. RGS Exteriors estimators are going to give you a great quote. No games, no tricks, no nonsense. Call RGS Exteriors to quote your exterior project. Our number is 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsutah.com. That's rgsutah.com.
Let's check that drive with traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s. Brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. I believe it's Heather Kelly in the traffic center.
It certainly is, Tim, and things are looking pretty good overall across the Wasatch Front. We still have a bit of slowing, though, southbound I-15 just after 123rd South and Draper to past Bangerter Highway. This is all due to an earlier crash that has been cleared. There's still a semi on the right shoulder, but all the lanes are now open. So it's just going to take a bit more time for that to clear out. Everybody else on freeways, though, are moving well. Find out more about how your kitchen or bath can be the kitchen or bath of your dreams in just 3 days. Just visit 3daykitchen.com. That's 3daykitchen.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today, believe it or not, is the coolest day of the next week with a high of 96 degrees. So enjoy it while you can, I guess, is the message. Temps are going to get blistering hot this weekend with a chance of 105 degrees on Sunday. Things will stay pretty dry until the beginning of next week. Right now in Salt Lake City, it's nice. Fair skies and 74 degrees at KSL News Radio. 102.7 FM, 1160 AM at KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
Just spoke to Republican Quinn Denning, who was vying for the GOP nomination, which Celeste Malloy wound up with out of convention in June at the Utah Republican Convention. He's suing her. He's also suing Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, told us just moments ago that Malloy's name should be removed from the ballot and Henderson should remove it.
The lieutenant governor did not follow the law that is written by the legislature. The legislature came out and made a statement that they didn't believe that she had followed the law.
And in his lawsuit, he states that having an illegal candidate in the congressional race impacted the voting at the special convention, saying he personally was impacted because this candidate, he alleges, should never have been there in the first place.
Alleging that Malloy wasn't properly registered as a Republican and that she was not, she didn't have a residency, was not properly was not living here in Utah and needs to be in order to qualify for the ballot. But yet I went over her long list of Utah credentials where she has lived and worked in Utah, working in Utah's in Washington County, southern Utah, in the St. George area, back in 2019. Then also serving in Chris Stewart's office, Representative Chris Stewart's office back in D.C., and is often the case. People who serve in Washington, D.C., serve our nation as support staff for our senators and congresswomen, move back there because they're going to work there. But he said, well, that doesn't really necessarily satisfy the letter of the law in terms of residency here.
Derek Brown, former chair of the Utah GOP. I'm so excited to get your insight on this and get your take on this because what do you make of it?
Well, I've got a lot of thoughts on this topic, as you can imagine. But first of all, just back up to the 30,000-foot level here. You've got someone who was one of 11 candidates, and if I recall correctly, he got 13 votes total. So, and he's asking for a do-over, essentially. So the likelihood of him ever becoming the nominee is about as close to zero as you can get. So for that person to be the one filing the lawsuit, part of that tells me he's not really the one behind it. And based on the fact that he had a hard time even answering some of the basic questions you guys asked him, I get the impression that, someone else is really behind it and he's kind of the front person. I mean, that's kind of my initial take. But again, I think they're splitting hairs here because ultimately the lieutenant governor said by the law she is qualified to run. And then the Republican Party said, well, by our bylaws, she qualifies as well, and they certified her name. So what he's asking a judge to do is almost certainly never going to happen. So that's just the reality of it.
Part of the, I think, thing that is kind of lost on me and I think has had really bad consequences is I think it's put Celeste Malloy's Republican credentials into question, which seems odd to me since she worked for 4 years as chief counsel to Representative Stewart, got the personal endorsement from Representative Stewart, but I do think there's this thing hanging over her now, questioning her Republican credentials.
Well, and the reality is, I mean, Celeste Malloy is as Republican as it gets. I mean, she was even the vice chair of the Washington County Republican Party. So the whole point, this is more of a PR stunt to cast a cloud over whether she's Republican, saying, well, she wasn't really a registered Republican. I mean, she's always been pretty much a registered Republican. It's not like she changed parties or whatever. So I think that's the reality here. But the real problem is that I don't think many of the listeners probably know this, but when you register to affiliate with a party, the Republican or the Democrat Party or any other party, you actually don't do it with the party. You do it with the state of Utah and the lieutenant governor's office. And so that's really the fundamental problem here is that, like, when I served as the chairman of the Republican Party, I really didn't know exactly who the members of my party were. The only person who really knows that is the lieutenant governor. And so that person here, Deidre Henderson, is in the best position to make that determination. So she's made that determination, and the likelihood that a judge is going to say, no, she was wrong and the party was wrong, and I'm going to take her off of the ballot after a convention's decided. Again, I think the likelihood is slim to none.
Okay, so I also asked Mr. Denning why not involve the Republican Party in the lawsuit? I mean, did he not want to get sideways with his own party? Talk to me about what your thoughts are on that, because the Republican Party is not named in here yet. She was at convention. If there was something wrong with any of the candidates' resumes or residency or registration, I would think the Republican Party would be able to vet that before they were, named a candidate at convention.
Exactly. And Debbie, you're exactly right on that point, because the time to raise this question, at least as far as the party is concerned, is in the days and weeks leading up to the convention, and maybe even at the convention itself, to say, hey, we have a concern about her qualifications as a Republican. The reality is that didn't happen. The convention said, look, she is our nominee. And truthfully, no one really thought this would be an issue. I mean, Celeste Malloy has been a Republican forever. She worked for a Republican member of Congress. She was an officer in one of the Republican county parties. So I don't think anyone ever stopped to realistically question that. But the reality is now the time to question that's over, which is why the Utah Republican Party is 100% behind Celeste Malloy. And so whether he could have named the party, I think it's an interesting question. I think the reality is that to the extent that anyone did anything wrong, he's basically admitting that the Republican Party didn't do anything wrong here. If anything, it was the lieutenant governor. But making the case that she did something wrong, I think it's going to be hard to do.
Even in the lawsuit, it says that Malloy registered as a Republican back in February 2016. By 2019, she'd moved to Virginia to work for Congressman Stewart. I guess I had no idea you could be booted off the rolls as a Republican.
What's funny, Dave? Either did I. And I was the chair of that party. And that's the funny thing about this. It's because here's what happened. I mean, the whole point of this is a PR stunt trying to get people to think that Malloy somehow unregistered as a Republican or re-registered as something else. Because she didn't vote in 2 of those federal elections, she got listed as what's called removable status, which basically means she was sort of de facto booted and needed to re-register. I think most of us, myself included, didn't realize that was even a thing and that the state does that. So hopefully they'll make some changes here and that process will be altered.
Yeah, that seems like it's a complex. I mean, we have a hard enough time keeping up with our lives in general and all the things we got to keep up with. No, if nobody knows that's going to happen, how would they know to fix it? So, Derek, as always, you're amazing. Thanks for joining us. Derek Brown, former GOP chair here in Utah, also host of KSL at Night.
Well, he makes a very good point, Debbie. Derek Brown, former chair of the GOP in Utah, didn't know you could be booted off the rolls either. He didn't know it. I didn't know it. Celeste Malloy probably didn't know it. I don't think anybody knew this, except, you know what? A lawyer did. Somebody knew it.
A few minutes ago when Quinn Denning called the show, he's the one who's filed the lawsuit against Celeste Malloy and the lieutenant governor. I did ask him why he didn't name the party in his lawsuit, the GOP party, the Republican Party here in Utah.
The reason we didn't name them is because we felt that they were damaged just as much as we were, his candidates. That information was kept from the Republican Party until after the convention. The action that we don't like came from the lieutenant governor's office. That's where the election integrity, the principles of election integrity were violated, and we did not have any election transparency.
All right, so will the judge put a hold on this primary candidate? Will they remove this primary candidate? We'll talk to Greg Skordas, our KSL legal analyst. Is that even a possibility? Have you ever heard of this happening? Next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Before Dave and Debbie get started each day, this station is all news all morning.
And later today, we follow up on those stories as you drive home.
Get important news all morning and all afternoon.
Here on KSL News Radio.
The July heat wave.
Triple digits are returning this weekend.
Means we're all on fire watch.
54% of fire starts this year have been human caused.
Stay updated on the risk of wildfire. Listen to Tim and Amanda mornings from 5 to 9 and Jeff Kaplan on the drive home from 3 to 7. Utah Fire Watch on KSL News Radio.
Hey, folks, if you have a family member that is struggling with addiction, this isn't, for people that are just active. This is on any level of the spectrum, right? If they're currently in recovery, if they need help, Renaissance Ranch wants to offer some help to families through free family support services. Their weekly online classes open to the public. You can go to as many of these as you want, but Renaissance Ranch wants to get you involved as a family member, as a loved one, because they know, research shows this very clearly, if you have loved ones that are involved in the recovery process, the chance of a more positive outcome just skyrockets. It's a much better chance if you have that support staff, both professionally and then at your own home. Classes are taught from a spousal, parental, and personal perspective. They offer a women's support group, even a couples recovery group. All you have to do is go to renaissanceranch.com. Free online classes open to the public. You can learn so much more. And this is something my family has been involved in for a long time, is helping folks through recovery. It's you've seen the heartbreak, but you've also seen the great victories as people overcome. So check it out. Go to renaissanceranch.com.
Solving mysteries is hard. Streaming them isn't.
We need to know what happened.
There's someone else pulling the strings here.
This month, get in touch with your inner detective and stream the best selection of British mysteries during Mystery Month on BritBox.
That is interesting.
Watch entire series of fan favourites, including the newest seasons of Luther, Silent Witness, Father Brown, Vera, and more.
My lips are sealed.
No one does mystery like the Brits. Start streaming now with a free trial at BritBox.com.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Right now you're thinking, Comparion? Never heard of them. We know. We also know that you have no idea that Comparion Insurance agents are local and provide expert advice. So to help it stick, we're going to say local agent 4 times in the next 15 seconds. Ready? Go. Our local agents know you and your community. Our local agents offer insurance from top carriers. Our local agents have minty fresh breath.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com. Comparion Insurance Agency. Local agents, expert advice.
And there's number 4.
I have to admit, when I heard that Hale Center Theater was going to be presenting Newsies, I was really excited. My whole family, as a matter of fact. Dee and I caught the performance the other night, and it is terrific. The youthful energy is simply amazing. Song after song that you love, highlighting, of course, a wonderful story that we can all appreciate. The youthful audience, too, they were loving Hale Center Theater and the presentation of Newsies. But much more is coming up, too. Disney's Finding Nemo Jr., Catch Me If You Can, a murder mystery, Around the World in 80 Days, and Elf the Musical is going to take us through the holidays. All of that and so much more is waiting for you at Hale Center Theater. Don't be left out on Newsies. It is so much fun. Your whole family is absolutely going to love it. And all you have to do is go to hct.org and get your tickets now. That's hct.org, Hale Center Theater.
I guess it's human nature, Amanda, that no matter how much money we have in our savings account, it never seems like it's enough. And if you find yourself in that mode right now, let us direct you over to our friends at UCCU. They are wanting to help you supercharge your savings.
UCCU is offering high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.5%. All you do is go to UCCU.com and select a high-rate savings option to do just what you said, supercharge your savings.
You're going to get a much bigger return on your savings right now. It's a savings certificate, which means you make one deposit up front and your money grows over a fixed period of time. So you can have that grow over 5 years, but UCCU has created some very short-term savings certificates with high yields, short like 6 months, 9 months, or a year.
So you decide how long do you want to put that money. You deposit money, a one-time only deposit, and then you let it stay in. The longer it stays in there, the higher the interest rate you earn.
And if you need immediate access to your money, UCCU's Money Market will give you a high yield and anytime access.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
Republican Quinn Denning joined the show just a moment ago, 30 minutes ago now, to talk about why he's suing the GOP nominee for the primary for Congressional District 2, Celeste Malloy, and Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. He wants Malloy's name removed from the ballot.
We've got to have more transparency. And to have been transparent would have been to allow everybody to know what had transpired and give them the opportunity to either vote on it or to do something according to the rules of the Republican Party about it.
And there's an argument to be made, Debbie, that if this was brought up at convention, that this would have influenced somebody, one of the delegates or maybe a number or a block of the delegates. But the fact is that it wasn't brought up at convention and wasn't realized until afterwards.
In a nutshell, the allegations allege that she had not legally established her residency in Utah at the time she declared candidacy, and that she was not a member of Utah's Republican Party. Greg Skordas, KSL legal analyst, both of those allegations have kind of been debunked, if you will, for lack of a better word, or a more legal word, by the Lieutenant Governor's office, who came out weeks ago and said she qualifies for the ballot. She absolutely qualifies for the ballot. Her name is going to be on the ballot. In fact, we spoke to Lindsay Aerts a little while ago, who's been tracking this story for us here at KSL News Radio, and she said ballots are getting printed right now. So does this lawsuit hold up in court? What do you think the judge will do with it?
Well, I think the judge is going to have a really hard time, Debbie. And I look at the transparency here. She worked for the Attorney General's office in Utah in 2013, graduated from BYU 2015, Washington County, Utah Attorney's Office 2018, Utah Association of Counties. I'm looking at her resume. She's a Utah lawyer. She's had Utah experience. She's worked for several Utah agencies, at least 4 or 5 since she graduated from law school. And her only deviation from that, in terms of her residency in Utah, is serving a Utah congressman in Washington, D.C. So it makes sense that she would have established some level of residency in Virginia because that's where she works. But by all intent and purposes, if you look at this woman's background and resume, it's fairly clear to me that her intention seems to have been to have residency here in Utah. And where she votes, I guess, is sort of contingent on where you're living at the time. But I really think this lawsuit is really problematic. I guess I'll hold my tongue from that point.
What do you mean by problematic? Problematic for the plaintiff or problematic for the defendant?
Problematic for the plaintiff. I don't think there's a good argument that can be made here that she didn't intend to have Utah as her residence, and she didn't intend to be a part of the Republican Party. The lieutenant governor certified her. The voters at the convention elected her as their representative for at least the primary, and it's just this all happened months ago, or at least several weeks ago. I think the convention over in Delta was about a month ago, and to do this now is really, I don't know. I don't understand why it's happening now, and in my opinion, this lawsuit has very, very limited merit.
How quickly do you anticipate this going through the courts?
Well, Dave, there's a primary election right after Labor Day. The general election is right after Thanksgiving. We changed the dates a little bit because this is a special election, but those are coming up. I mean, we're talking less than 8 weeks away for the primary, and so I would assume a judge has to make some decision whether she's going to be on that ballot. I imagine the ballots are already being printed and sent out to the local county clerks. The Lieutenant Governor's office has probably certified that her name's going to be on the ballot. There are at least 2 other Republicans that have qualified through the signature gathering process, but the judge has to make some decision well before we get to voting, or at least the Republicans in their primary get to voting here in the second week of September.
I brought this up to Quinn Denning, who's the one suing Deidre Henderson, Lieutenant Governor, and also Celeste Malloy, who is on the primary ballot as the GOP nominee for Congressional District 2, Chris Stewart's seat. And I just said, like, under his scenario, like, nobody could serve in the military overseas and be, like, you know, having lived in Utah. Maybe they enlist in Utah and then they go overseas, or serve a church mission for a few years. And sometimes those can be for quite a few years. So it would disqualify a swath of Utahns who decided to even serve a congressman if they had to move back to where their job was at, or leave the country because they're in military service. That's just my perspective.
No, I agree with you 100%. It would probably disqualify the congressman himself. Chris Stewart had to establish some level of residency back in D.C. You don't suppose that Mitt Romney and Mike Lee don't have some residency in D.C.? I mean, they have to. That's part of their job. But they still serve the people of Utah. And she was simply there in D.C. or Virginia serving the Utah congressman on behalf of the citizens of Utah. But I don't know. She had to establish residency there. She had to live there. That's where her job was. But that doesn't mean that she's not a Utahn.
Well, I'm going to ask you a quick question. I asked Derek Brown this question because this was brand new. I didn't know you could register as a Republican and then get kicked off at some point. I didn't realize that was a thing. Derek Brown's like, yeah, it's the chair of the GOP. I didn't know that was a thing. You've actually run for office here in Utah. Did you know you could get kicked off I'm sure you're registered as a Democrat, but did you know you could get kicked off?
I didn't, and frankly, the Democrats can't kick anybody off, or we wouldn't have anybody to vote for. But the Republicans, it's a little different, and they the fact that she didn't vote for 2 consecutive cycles sort of automatically removed her name. But it wasn't because she asked to be taken off or did anything effectively to remove her name. It's just she didn't vote in 2 cycles, and so she was sort of put on the standby list, and now she's back on as a registered Republican, and she ought to be able to sit for election as a registered Republican and Utah resident.
Thanks, Greg.
Greg Skordas, KSL legal analyst. Thank you.
Lots more to cover on this story. We'll continue to track it right here at KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour. Last night's storms have mostly moved on, but this holiday weekend is going to be hot. KSL News Radio's Hugo Rickard Bell continues our team coverage, summer weather, talking about farmers and others who have to keep working even with temperatures soaring.
AJ Ferguson from the Utah Farm Bureau told me there are some pretty blunt symptoms for heat stroke.
Your skin's going to start to become pale, ashen, and moist. You'll have muscle cramps, fatigue, weakness, and exhaustion.
One thing to note is if you are fatiguing in the hot sun, icy cold water isn't always the best thing. It can shock your system, so lukewarm or room temperature is ideal to begin with when it comes to heat stroke. Hugo Rickard Bell, KSL News Radio.
A woman was caught beneath a falling tree yesterday in Clearfield. KSL News Radio's Dan Bomas reports the woman died in spite of rescuers' best efforts.
This happened just after 7 o'clock last night along the Rio Grande Trail in Clearfield. Assistant Police Chief Devin Rogers says officers found her pinned beneath the tree when they got there.
She sustained traumatic injuries when our officers arrived on scene. She was pinned underneath the tree, unconscious when our officers arrived.
Rescuers were able to get her out from beneath the tree, and she was taken to the hospital where she died. Rogers says there were strong winds in the area when the tree came down. Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Residents of a Dallas neighborhood hope the detectives investigating a possible serial killer have their man. ABC's Jim Ryan says that so far 3 killings have been linked to one suspect.
The first body was found on April 22nd under a railroad bridge. 2 months later, in nearly the same spot, another woman's body was discovered. On June 24th, the remains of a third woman are found not far away. 2 of the 3 had been stabbed to death. Police say they may all have had connections to prostitution. Detectives have arrested a 25-year-old man, Oscar Sanchez Garcia, and charged him with 3 counts of murder. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
Your money at this moment, a mixed market. The Dow has gained 270 points, but the S&P has lost 12, and NASDAQ has lost 173 points. Coming up, temps are only getting hotter for the weekend. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
They say good things come to those who wait, but we both know the truth. If you want the good things in life, you've got to go out and get them. So if you've been dreaming of a Cadillac, don't wait. Head to Jerry Seiner Cadillac and get one for yourself. With their award-winning XT4, 5, and 6 models available on-site and the area's top selection of certified pre-owned Cadillacs, there's no need to wait to drive in luxury. Stop dreaming, start driving. Visit Jerry Seiner and experience the Seiner difference.
At Your Service Pros Heating and Air recently received the following review on Yelp. I'm so glad I got a second opinion from At Your Service Pros. They identified the same items of work to be done, but gave me a much more realistic quote. I'll definitely use them again. Thanks, Seth. We're glad we were able to do the repairs for less than half of what the other company quoted him. There's a reason we're one of the highest rated companies on both Google and Yelp. If you want a free second opinion on your HVAC repairs, give us a call at 801-YOUR-PRO. That's 801-YOUR-PRO.
Here's a question. Do you wear dentures? At Grandpa's Dental, you can trade in your floppy dentures and get $2,000 towards an implant-supported solution. You know, they say the older you get, the more you need your teeth. Well, chewing your food isn't a luxury. And taking a bite out of a nice, juicy steak, well, it takes teeth. At Grandpa's Dental, they have over 10,000 restorations under their belt, and it's always affordable. When you walk into one of their 3 locations, you're family, period. At Grandpa's Dental, they live their family legacy by building lasting relationships through state-of-the-art services. So if you want to stop the flop and actually eat foods you can chew, trade in your dentures at Grandpa's Dental for $2,000 toward your implant solution. Schedule your free consultation at grandpasdental.com today. That's grandpasdental.com. When words come out of our mouths and everything sounds fine, no one bats an eye. But if things come out a little jumbled or letters sound different than most, there's speech therapy. But did you know that speech therapy is used for more than just stuttering or disfluency? From articulation to expressive and receptive language to a simple act of swallowing that most of us take for granted, speech therapy can do amazing things for you, your health, and of course your sense of self. That's why Summit Speech Therapy is here. Summit Speech Therapy works with people of all ages, from infants and toddlers who have a difficult time feeding or eating, TBI, stroke, or coma patients, to children and adults with speech problems. So much of it is all related, and Summit Speech Therapy can help. Summit works with all insurance companies as well as private pay options, and the experience can be life-changing. With clinics up and down the Wasatch Front, including Murray, with no long waiting for an appointment. For more, visit summitslp.com. That's summitslp.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got a little bit of slowing northbound I-15 in Murray, where people are merging on from the I-215 South interchange, but all the other freeways are looking pretty good, especially in the Salt Lake Valley. Of course, it is orange barrel season, so construction could slow you down from time to time, especially on US 40 out near Park City. That's both directions between Jordanelle State Park and also I-80, as well as on Legacy Parkway. The Utah Symphony's Deer Valley Music Festival in Park City features Ben Folds, Leanne Rimes, the Beach Boys, and more. Going on now through August 4th in Park City at deervalleymusicfestival.org. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather looks like today will be the cool day in the 7-day forecast with a high of 96 today, and then temps will be climbing all the way to 105 on Sunday. There are heat warnings in effect. Right now it's 79 degrees and partly sunny at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, this will be good news for 4,000 Utahns. They're going to get $200 million, not each.
That would be
total
sweet.
In student loan forgiveness, after all. That's right. We're talking about student loan forgiveness again, and it is actually happening for 4,000 Utahns and a lot of other Americans. Because remember, let's back up. Shortly after the Supreme Court struck down President Biden's plan to pay off, $400 billion in student loans across the nation, the president came out and he said this.
Today's decision has closed one path. Now we're going to pursue another. I'm never going to stop fighting for you. We'll use every tool at our disposal to get you the student debt relief you need and reach your dreams.
All right, that second path, instead of costing $400 billion, it'll cost only $39
Yeah, that's like a rounding error. $39 billion, that's basically nothing. $39 billion is still a staggering amount of money. Now, I've been very clear from the beginning, I don't understand, I don't like any student loan forgiveness on any level ever. No one is lining up to forgive my mortgage loan, my car loan, my credit card loan, or Debbie's store credit card collection.
I have no credit card debt.
Used to. You used to.
I have none.
Listen,
I don't do
we
that
borrow
anymore.
it. You should pay it back. That's fair.
How will this help Utahns? Well, whether you think it's fair or not, Dave, this new plan will indeed help 4,000 Utahns. But okay, listen up, because this is a very specific subset of borrowers. And in just a few minutes, we're going to get a live interview with a student loan expert to give us more insight.
And I think fundamentally that's what has been so frustrating for me about all of these plans that President Biden has thrown out there. It just grabs a select few here and a select few there, and that's who I'm going to help. Well, this one is specifically for income-driven payers only, people that are repaying their loans through income-driven plans. So he's done this, in all his plans. He just kind of chooses somebody. So if you've had loans in the past, if you're going to have loans in the future, none of this student loan forgiveness, none of this affects you. It's just for this, group of folks in the last 20 years or so that have student loans. And that's who he's addressing. Everyone else, figure it out on your own or tough luck.
So, and you have a problem with that. You just got to keep paying and paying and paying and paying and paying. What if the interest is ballooning so much that you'll never pay that off, even though you've far exceeded the payment for the actual loan? Because I've heard of that happening.
Yeah, no question. That absolutely happens.
Just keep going.
And it happens in credit cards, and it happens in store credit cards.
And it happened in homes in the mid 2000s, and a whole bunch of people walked away from their homes.
Yeah,
because they took out interest-only loans. And then they couldn't afford. They realized they couldn't afford to ever pay them off or catch up. And a whole bunch of people just walked away. They weren't even forgiven. They just stopped making the payments.
Yeah,
and that's what caused the housing collapse of 2007, 2008, depending on how you calculate it.
Yeah, bad stuff happens when you don't repay your loans. And the government doesn't have to come in here and solve everything. They shouldn't come in and try to solve this for everybody.
I think the Salt Lake Tribune had a nice breakdown of how this will affect Utah. The Department of Education announcing that this new plan in total will affect 804,000 borrowers. So Utahns, you're the 4,000 of that 804,000.
Yeah.
Total cost, as I said, $39 billion. Utah, all of these folks in Utah who are going to have their student loans forgiven will get about $200 million worth of forgiveness. Can you break that down, Dave, or did you break it down in your mind?
50 grand on average.
Oh.
Yeah, 4,000 Utahns, $200 million. That's an average of $50,000 of student debt loan forgiveness.
You know what's scary in that number? Do you know what's scary? People have $50,000
after 20 years.
After 20 years.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me, are these all doctors and lawyers? Do we know? Are these all doctors and lawyers who had to take out $200,000 in student loans in order to get through law school or medical school? Or are these just people who got, regular degrees? And like I said, that interest is ballooning up and they can never get ahead.
Part of the thing that drives me so crazy about the student debt loan forgiveness conversation in general is it's dealing with the problem, after the devastation, right? So we're not talking about the rising costs of tuition. We're not talking about how expensive it is to go to college or even the return on invest if a degree is even worth it. This is after the fact, huge loans that the schools promise me. They promise me, get a good education, take out loans, it'll pay off in the long run. And what this student loan crisis has told me is, we were wrong on that. You aren't making so much more money because of your higher education degree that you can pay off your loans. That is a disaster. So, sure, you can forgive a loan, $50,000, that will help a family. But there's a fundamental problem with higher education right now that we're not addressing. And that this does not address. This fixes, a few people, 4,000 people in Utah. But how many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of students are going into school and having to pay an arm and a leg that they will never be able to pay back?
Do they know what they're getting into?
No.
I wonder if there's clarity, if there's so many different loan plans, and some of them are quite young. They've probably, in many cases, never dealt with the fine print on a loan before. You know, you have to hope, okay, hopefully their parents are helping them, or they're having a finance expert at the school help them. But they're there. They want to go to college, and this loan is being dangled in front of them as a way to get through college and afford college. In the end, they get through it. It's kind of like when you buy that big car, and then you have buyer's remorse after the fact, in a sense. I mean, they have a degree, and I'm a strong proponent of college. This is in no way and to suggest that I am not a proponent of college. I'm also very, very concerned about the rising cost of tuition. No kidding. I just got done paying off my third child's tuition. I mean, we saved and saved and saved for years, and we did that when
Sacrificed,
our kids.
Right.
We saved, and as parents, we wanted our children to have that opportunity if they wanted to take it, and so we saved as much money as we could every month, like $300 a month, $100 per child for many, many years. That was our choice when our children were born. I don't regret that at all. In fact, I'm proud of it. I'm very proud of the fact that we did that for our children, and not one of them was in a situation where they had to take out a single student loan. Now, that might not be the case when my daughter goes to medical school, and she will get into medical school, and she's in the process right now of applying to many, many medical schools. She will get into medical school. I do not doubt that. That will be a different scenario. We are already crossing that bridge. But you know, the fact that all of these students are ending up in these massive amount of loans, and after 20 years, they still owe $50,000. Come on, no one can think that's fair or right. Something's off, way off.
Does it feel a little like what's the? I don't want to call it a timeshare, where it sounds amazing
It's
in the
perpetual.
beginning, but then you're just constantly paying for
And they're
it.
perpetual. You know, timeshares are perpetual. In many cases, I think in most cases, even when you die, your kids get it. I mean, it's just like, it is. You hit the nail on the head.
Higher education is like a timeshare. Come on in, sit down. We'll give you some free rounds of golf.
Let's talk to an expert who can walk us through all of these different scenarios and how this plan will work once payments start kicking in and these student loans get forgiven. Next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hey, stay right here for more of Dave and Dujanovic.
And tomorrow morning, come back here for news, traffic updates, and reliable weather.
Join us to have a listen. Tim and Amanda.
Your morning companions for news.
Steve, it's the biggest combo movie show of the year. We've got Barbenheimer going this week. T-shirts, people are buying tickets back to back.
Barbenheimer makes no sense at all. You're going to want to see the Oppenheimer movie first. It's 3 hours and it's really tough. And then you're going to want the lighthearted movie, so it should be called Oppen Barbie.
Okay, so everybody, your T-shirts are backwards.
Yeah, get new T-shirts.
It's a special movie show.
So join us 9 to noon this Friday when we talk about Barbie and Oppenheimer and more on KSL News Radio.
Would you be upset if you lost $111,000 in retirement income? Get this, 96% of Americans, 96% lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income. Learn how you could avoid this in a free report, the Social Security Decisions Guide from Boss Retirement Solutions, a 5-time winner of Utah's Best of State Award. If you've saved at least $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get this free report by calling 801-682-4448. This free report is loaded with critical information that can help you avoid losing $111,000 in Social Security income. So call 801-682-4448. That's 801-682-4448. Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
With the economy the way it is, you're probably staying put. So invest in your home, your number one asset, with beautiful custom replacement windows from Advanced Window Products. They're a local Utah company building beautiful vinyl framed and insulated double pane windows for 37 years right here in Salt Lake City. Advanced Window Products will save you money on your energy bill. Get security features to keep your family safe. In an Advanced Window Products, it's all custom. And the best part? They're local. They build the windows, they install the windows, and they guarantee them for life. So there's no middleman markup. You save on the highest quality windows in Utah. Plus, Rocky Mountain and Dominion offer rebates. For a limited time, they offer 60-month 0% financing. And right now, get $2,000 off 10 windows or more. They're working 8 weeks out. So make the call now. Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or visit advancedwindowsusa.com.
I can't wait for what's next. Even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Apixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Any Hour
I can't
Services
wait
can
for
make
what's
sure your
next.
AC keeps
Even
you cool
with
this
higher
summer.
stroke
Whether
risk
you
due to
need a
atrial
tune-up, repair,
fibrillation,
or just a
an
second
irregular
opinion.
heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Apixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and, in rare cases, fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Any Hour Services can make sure your AC keeps you cool this summer. Whether you need a tune-up, repair, or just a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, be aware of heat stroke as temperatures climb up to 105 this weekend. Second, a Clearfield woman was killed after being caught beneath a fallen tree yesterday. Third, residents of a Dallas neighborhood hope the detectives investigating a possible serial killer have their man. Right now, it's 79 degrees in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We're talking about these 4,000 Utah residents who are going to get $200 million total in student loan forgiveness. After all, that's right, there's more student loan forgiveness. It is happening. And Dave did the math, or somebody did the math. Did you steal the math from somebody?
I used a calculator.
You did the math. $50,000 on average per Utahn who's getting their loan forgiven.
Yeah, and way more than what was promised by President Biden in his plan that the Supreme Court just nuked. His plan was, I'm going to forgive somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000. This is way more money, way fewer people, but way more money.
So, and I guess the student loan forgiveness is only available to those who are on an income-driven repayment plan and have been making those payments for 20 years. I mean, talk about, God bless you, I mean, for getting through college and continuing to pay, and you've been making those payments, but talk about like a piece of toilet paper stuck to a piece of gum stuck to the bottom of your shoe for 20 years.
How many loans do we allow to be repaid in 20 years? Outside of a mortgage?
None.
I can't think of
Could you
any.
imagine walking in and, a boat loan. Maybe 15.
boat loan?
I think a boat loan is like 15 years.
Really?
Yeah. Because we went to the boat show. We loved a boat when the kids were younger. So we went to the boat show once, Chris and I. And I don't remember if we took the kiddos with us. Probably a good thing we didn't. We found this yellow boat. My favorite color in the whole wide world is yellow. We found this beautiful yellow boat. And Chris was all in, right? I mean, this salesperson.
Just say yes, honey.
The salesperson absolutely hates me. Because he's all in. He's ready to sign on the dotted line. Brand new boat. And I said, do you realize? I pulled him aside. I said, do you realize? And this was probably about the year 2000. I said, that if we make payments on this boat, it won't be paid off until the year 2015. He's like, yeah, never mind. We're out.
We're good. Thanks.
But I think you bring up an excellent point, Dave, in our discussion here. Like, how does this income-driven repayment plan work? It's got me curious. I don't know how it works.
Jessica Euler joins us right now, Vice President for Student Access and Success at Weber State University. Jessica, thanks for joining us. Can you walk us through what an income-driven repayment plan looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So an income-driven repayment plan, there's actually 4 different versions of it, which is why sometimes it's a little bit confusing to students. But there is a common one that's mostly associated with public service loan forgiveness, and that one takes into account 10% of what your monthly income is, and then it extends that period, like y'all were talking about, to 20 or 25 years. For folks. So it takes into account their income up to 10% of that monthly income. It also looks at the poverty line as a factor. So the cutoff for current plans is 150% of the poverty line, or $22,000 a year per single person. So that's what it looks like now for those folks who are doing income-driven repayment plans.
I thought I had read somewhere that it was disposable income. Is there an aspect of that on the income-driven plan?
Well, what they're looking at is, so it's looking at how much they make, and then, so they're calling it disposable income, but depending on what plan you are, how that's calculated is different. So there's just a whole lot of ambiguity for students, even when they're signing up for those loans in the first place. So depending on which one it is, definitely a factor.
So say I'm making $100,000 and you're saying 10%. I'm not necessarily responsible for $10,000 a year, or is it that cut and dried?
It is. So no, not in most instances. And that's one of the things that Biden's new proposal is really looking at clearing up a little bit for folks. So right now it's looking at capping it at 10% of discretionary income, defined slightly differently for folks. And they're looking at changing it to 5%. But no, I can't imagine there would be an instance where at $100,000 you'd be paying $10,000.
Which would work out to be about, $800 a month or something like that. That sounds like sadly, it sounds like a car payment today. Jessica Euler is the Vice President for Student Access and Success at Weber State University. Have her on the line right now because we're getting word that 4,000 Utahns are going to get probably an average of about $50,000 of student loan forgiveness through the Biden administration's new plan after his first plan got tossed by the U.S. Supreme Court. So I see a lot of social media posts, Jessica, about this, and I'm hoping you can give us some insight. Is that people, and obviously clearly in this case, you got, if they're getting an average of $50,000 and they've been paying for 20 years, and those are the people who qualify for the forgiveness, is the interest stacking on so high that the principal doesn't really do much, and they just end up kind of chasing interest for 20 years, and they never really get their loan paid off? Is that what's happening to a lot of students?
In some instances, that's certainly what's happening. So there's 2 different ways. So some of those income-driven repayments are going out to 20, 25 years. If somebody's looking at public loan service forgiveness, so they're working in the public sector, they can actually get it forgiven at 10 years. But what you're talking about is spot on. So if someone has a low income, some of these individuals are paying 0% a month. based on what their current or $0 a month based on what their current income is, but they're still accruing interest during that time. So even if their payment is zero, if they're not paying whatever interest was accrued that month, then it's building up for them, and they can end up owing much more than they started with if on some of these income rebate-based repayment plans.
What was your impression when you heard that this would affect 4,000 Utahns, but it would cost basically $200 million to forgive those 4,000 loans?
Oh, my goodness. I have lots of feelings about it, right? Because I think about our due diligence at the get-go when students are taking loans, and what does affordability look like for colleges, and should we have ever been in a place where students have this many loans.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm also seeing that lots of these students who have these high debts that are being forgiven are those in our higher income brackets, right, that went through, completed college, and that's why they accumulated so much. And are we, when we're saying the intent is to help those who are lower income, but really some of these larger balances are likely people making higher incomes that we're paying off. And so, I absolutely see that this is a way that we're looking at how can we, address the student loan crisis that we have as a nation. But I think it's one of those situations where we're going for the easy way to address it in some instances, as opposed to looking at affordability and that sort of thing. Now, that being said, I do think that, there is still some onus out there that we allowed students to take on this much debt and that they're in this place. So, I have so many mixed feelings and talk about it for way too long about whether this is a good or a bad thing.
Yeah, I hear you.
We appreciate you joining us. Yeah, I think this is very much the conversation, the thing that most of the country is struggling with, is trying to figure out exactly what you were saying. How did we get here? Is it worth it? The return on investment? And how do we fix the problem of getting kids into that much debt in the first place? So, Jessica Euler, thank you for joining us from Weber State University.
KSL News Radio's Hugo Ricard-Bell is going to join us in studio next. He found out that starting this week, when it comes to private gun sales, you can check on whether the person you're selling a gun to is even allowed to have one legally. But there's some nuance to this new law, and he's going to explain it to us next.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour: the two candidates who gathered signatures to qualify for the primary election ballot in Utah's 2nd Congressional District had to put out a massive and expensive effort to get the job done in just a few weeks. KSL News Radio's Dan Bomas has more.
Campaign finance disclosures show Becky Edwards spent about $31,000 to gather the required 7,000 signatures. She also had help from volunteers. The Salt Lake Tribune reports Bruce Huff paid $167,000 to a professional signature gathering firm to get the job done. Celeste Malloy qualified for the ballot at the state Republican convention, so she didn't need to gather signatures. Edwards is leading the fundraising race right now with $207,000 in contributions compared to $72,000 for Malloy and less than $60,000 for Huff. Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio.
BYU alum and 49ers Hall of Fame star Steve Young is making a career change.
He's going to coach high school flag football in California this fall. His two daughters, a senior and freshman, are team members. Young recently spent 20 years at ESPN as an on-air analyst, but got laid off during a wave of job cuts. Young's former team, the 49ers, have been leading the push to make high school flag football a varsity sport. Young says it's a great team game that teaches tremendous life lessons, and he wants to help build women's flag football. Kate Davis, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. More details about next week's scheduled hearing on UFOs, or UAPs, in the House Oversight Committee is set for Wednesday. Here's Tennessee Republican Congressman Tim Burchett.
We're going to have witnesses who can speak frankly to the public about their experiences. We've had a heck of a lot of pushback about this hearing. We've had members of Congress who fought us. We've had members of the intelligence community and also the Pentagon. Even NASA backed out on us. There are a lot of people who don't want this to come to light.
Your money at this moment: the Dow is in the green, 280 points, but the S&P is in the red, 13 points. The NASDAQ has lost 193 points. Coming up today is cool compared to the forecast. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
I guess it's human nature, Amanda, that no matter how much money we have in our savings account, it never seems like it's enough. And if you find yourself in that mode right now, let us direct you over to our friends at UCCU. They are wanting to help you supercharge your savings.
UCCU is offering high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.5%. All you do is go to UCCU.com and select a high-rate savings option to do just what you said, supercharge your savings.
You're going to get a much bigger return on your savings right now. It's a savings certificate, which means you make one deposit up front and your money grows over a fixed period of time. So you can have that grow over 5 years, but UCCU has created some very short-term savings certificates with high yields, short like 6 months, 9 months, or a year.
So you decide how long do you want to put that money. You deposit money, a one-time only deposit, and then you let it stay in. The longer it stays in there, the higher the interest rate you earn.
And if you need immediate access to your money, UCCU's Money Market will give you a high yield and anytime access.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
Looking for a trusted oral surgery practice? Look no further than Aspire Surgical. With a team of highly skilled and experienced board-certified oral and facial surgeons, Aspire Surgical offers a variety of surgical services, from wisdom teeth removal to dental implants to facial cosmetics. At Aspire Surgical, patient comfort and safety are top priorities. Their state-of-the-art facilities and advanced techniques ensure that patients receive the best possible care in a comfortable and safe environment. Visit their website at aspiresurgical.net or call 385-474-4952 to schedule a consultation today. Trust Aspire Surgical for all your oral surgery needs. Visit aspiresurgical.net or call 385-474-4952 to schedule a consultation today. Aspire Surgical, where your aspirations become a reality.
Here's Jake Harwood of Harwood Farms.
Hey, I'm Jake Harwood, announcing Harwood Farms green roadside stands are now open.
Jake, look at all the nice comments on the Harwood Farms Facebook page wondering when you're going to be open.
Like I said, our roadside stands are now open.
Care posts, we can't wait for your corn.
We're open now.
Frank says we can't wait for Jake's fresh, locally grown corn, plus cantaloupes, watermelons, and more.
Click online to harwoodfarms.com for a complete list of our now open locations. Fresh from our family's farm to your family's dinner table.
Harwood Farms.
Martin's Collision Repair.
50,000 cars repaired and counting. Just check Martin's 5-star online reviews.
Dave posted, "It's amazing what Martin's was able to do. You would never know that the car was in an accident. I recommend Martin's."
Hi, I'm Tiago Martins. Check Martin's Facebook page or martinscollision.com for your 5-star Martin's experience. On State Street in Norham and in Salem, we work with all insurance companies.
The right repair, the right paint, the right choice. Martin's Collision Repair.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Heather Kelly.
We did have a stalled vehicle southbound I-15 right at the exit ramp to SR 92 in Lehigh. It had been blocking the right lane and shoulder, causing slowdowns in the area, but it just got moved off the freeway about 2 minutes ago, so those delays have eased up. Everybody else is moving along nicely, especially on I-15, both directions throughout Salt Lake and Davis counties, and no problems on I-80 out of Tooele County or going through Parley's Canyon. This is the Place Heritage Park, your place for family fun and July celebrations with flag ceremony, live music, activities, and more. Visit thisistheplace.org. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, some remaining clouds in the sky today, a high of 96 degrees. But as we move into the weekend, things will heat up a lot and we won't really feel them ease up over the next 7 days. Sunday, we could see highs of 105. Right now, it's 81 degrees and partly sunny at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I didn't know this was happening, so I'm really glad that we have very own KSL News Radio's Hugo Ricard Bell that is looking into this for us. But the Utah Department of Public Safety just launched an online program, a process for private gun sales. And you can, check the background to see if somebody is legally eligible to own a gun if you're a private gun owner before you sell it to them. And that just launched this week, but it's not required. And
you can do this online, though.
Yeah, it's not required.
It's not required.
No.
Okay, I knew this was available, but
Did you?
Well, I should qualify. I knew it was available that you could go to, say, a gun store. So if you want to make a private sale, you could go to a gun store, run the check there. That was available to folks. I knew that. But you're saying that there's an online process for that now.
And it's causing a little bit of controversy, as discussions about guns and laws about guns usually do, because it's not required. So let's get with KSL News Radio's Hugo Ricard Bell, who looked into it. He's produced a story about it, looking at all sides, and then he's going to join us live in studio to answer some questions for us.
It created a program for people making private gun sales to plug in someone's concealed carry permit number and see if they're what's called a restricted person, or simply put, even allowed to have a gun. But if you ask Nancy Howden from the Gun Violence Prevention Center of Utah, there's a pretty blunt loophole for people trying to source a firearm illegally.
90% of Utahns want the loopholes in our background check system closed. But those people want a law, not a suggestion. And our big issue with this bill is that it suggests that people do a background check. Well, we know how people and suggestions go. It just doesn't always pan out.
According to Howden, not requiring this program to be used is where the problem lies. Now, Representative Corey Malloy of Lehigh, he was the bill sponsor and says requiring the check infringes on Second Amendment rights, even if it is a restricted person.
There's laws against using firearms in criminal acts. And until someone commits a crime, it's hard to say we have to infringe your rights or make your rights more difficult to utilize when you haven't committed a crime. A lot of people want to be able to have their Second Amendment rights so they can protect themselves against those very criminals that you're talking about. There's nothing here that I think would promote the sale of illegal firearms.
Amir Fana-Ian is from Armed Queers, an LGBTQI gun rights advocacy group, and she's against increased background checks.
I think in theory they sound great, and in theory they are meant to stop crime from happening or violence from happening. But the way we've seen them actually invoked by the United States government and states across the nation has been quite unjust. It's been invoked against marginalized communities.
But the optional side of this law means it's not really keeping her up at night.
Kind of seems like something that neither satisfies those who are gun owners or the gun control lobby. It's one that kind of is strange in a way that it seems very performative. It seems like something that was introduced just to say something was being done.
At the end of the day, the law is essentially an honesty policy that Malloy hopes will reduce gun violence.
This allows those responsible gun owners to stay in that safe category where they haven't unknowingly sold to someone who maybe would commit a violent act.
Something Howden doubts.
This bill is the perfect example of a good idea, but a poor enactment of that idea.
Hugo Ricard Bell joins us right now, and thanks for the report, Hugo. I think as I'm following this, I knew that you could do this. You know, the online component of it, I think, makes it more accessible. Is it easy to use or work? Have you...
Yeah, I mean, it's still like what you said. You knew that you could use it if you wanted to, and that's the same sort of thing here. You can use it if you want to. The online thing just adds, a little bit more accessibility, I think.
Hugo, I'm sure this is too early in the game right now. This just went live. It sounds like a couple of days ago. But did you get any sense at all from the folks you talked to or from the lawmaker behind this legislation where people can voluntarily do this background check of the person they're selling the gun to online, that it will be well utilized by Utahns?
Well, so that you're right. It's probably too early to tell. That was a tough question for them to answer. But, Representative Malloy, he really honed in on the responsible gun owner. And so you would expect that, responsible gun owners, there's a reason why we call them responsible gun owners, because they're responsible. They do these sort of things. My line of questioning towards him was more about, what are you doing to sort of stop the unresponsible gun owner, and that was tough. That was a bit tougher to sort of get an answer out of him on that one. But that I suppose is where my questions were landing, and same with the gun violence. The gun violence association I spoke to as well.
Was there a concern that when these things are offered, whether it's go in person to do the background check or to do it online, that adds a layer of liability to the person that is selling the gun? Meaning, if I sell a gun to somebody and they go off and they commit a crime, could I be held liable because I didn't do a background check, even though it's not required, but that it is out there and it is offered?
Well, I mean, I think that's the whole point. It's not required at all. There's no database. This doesn't hold any data on you. It's just does your concealed carry permit ping or not? That's it. There's no, what have you used a gun for before? Have you been committed a crime before? There's nothing. It's just,
So
is there a red flag?
Are
or
you
not?
thinking, Dave, is your thought process that does this open up some sort of legal liability to the seller if they don't do this, even though it is a voluntary check? Well, maybe that's a question for our legal analyst, Greg Skordas.
Yeah,
it's a good question. Go ahead, Hugo.
Sorry, the impression I got, just to sort of make it a bit easier, from the three people I spoke to who knew a lot about this, was it's more of a moral liability in the sense that you can do the check, and if it red flags, you still have the option of selling the gun, and then that sort of is sort of rest, and that's sort of what Representative Malloy sort of mentioned as well.
So what would red flag would be something in the nature of, like, if I was selling a gun and I don't own a gun to sell, so don't call me to buy my gun. And I ran this voluntary online background check through the Department of Public Safety, and it came up that the person was a felon, for example. Felons can't generally own handguns after they've been convicted. That would flag that to me, and then I could make the decision at that point whether I still wanted to sell it or not. And see, in my case, I'd be like, it's a no-go, dude. We're not doing this transaction. But we're saying, when you say it's immoral, it's more of like a moral moral
You
moral
still
check.
sell it.
I could still sell it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think there's any, from my understanding of it, there's no legal obligation to report someone or whatever if they're trying to get a gun.
And the state doesn't get any kind of red flag on its end saying, Debbie Dujanovic is online right now trying to sell a Glock or whatever. I don't even know the terminology, but she's trying to sell a Glock. And my goodness, a felon just popped up on her search. And now we got to go chase that down. That's not what this is about.
That's not my understanding.
Okay.
My understanding, this is from the Department of Public Safety, not the not a law enforcement tool or anything like that. It's for private owners to do their own mini background checks.
Interesting.
But it doesn't give you any details. It just tells you if you've been flagged.
Hugo, thank you for that report, and we appreciate you sharing that with us.
Oh, I just got a message from the lawmaker. He texted me. Yes, we want you to call Representative Malloy. We want you to call 801. We'll give you the don't call the regular call line. I'm not going to give out the interview line on the.
I'm going to give out Debbie's personal cell phone.
I almost just did that. Hugo, awesome. Thank you so much. We'll get the lawmaker on the line next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Did you know Utah has just one all-news station in the morning?
It's this one, weekday mornings between 5 and 9.
Start your days with us. We're Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Your morning companions for news.
Do you know why more homeowners choose Any Hour Services for help when it's time to replace their air conditioners? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the main reasons people choose Any Hour Services is because of our people, processes, and convenience. People tell us all the time that there's just something different about having an Any Hour Services technician in their home. That's why most of our over 18,000 Google reviews mention our technicians by name. Another reason is our 7-step install process that we call the Any Hour Difference. It all starts with a needs analysis where you explain what you like and dislike about your current system. This helps us design and size a system that fits your comfort and efficiency preferences as well as your home's airflow requirements. As for convenience, most of our installs are completed in one day. We also have flexible, no money down financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. So if you've been thinking about getting a new air conditioner, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Well, summer's here, and of course, a lot of activities come along with it. But if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling sluggish, if you're not feeling good about yourself, you may just find yourself missing summer sitting on the couch. It's time to shift the game. SOTA Weight Loss, SOTA, stands for state-of-the-art weight loss because it is state-of-the-art, is your path to actually be able to get out and enjoy your summer. The pounds and inches fall away because it's based on science. You have your own nutritionist and coach to help you along the way. And I'm not the only one who's had great success. I lost 37 pounds, got me off the couch, got me back engaged in all kinds of activities, and you can do the same. It's really simple. You've heard me say it before when it comes to your SOTA weight loss journey. There's no time to lose. There's only time to win. So start winning. Summer's just right here, and it's a great chance for you to get in the game, get control of your health and wellness, and project a better future. Check it out at sotaweightloss.com, SOTA weightloss.com.
Tents are going up. Prices are going down. And that means you know where you'll be July 19th through the 22nd. Noble House Furniture and Design in Bountiful is holding its annual tent sale July 19th through 22nd with hundreds of new in-the-box overstock and clearance items. Every year, Noble House clears out the warehouse, and that means great discounts on beautiful, high-quality furniture with savings of 50 to 80% off MSRP. Noble House wants their clients to love walking into their homes. For 22 years, Noble House has helped clients find the perfect design result. And now, that can all be yours, complete with up to 80% off MSRP. Furniture store, interior design studio, and outstanding values. The tents go up and the prices go down. July 19th through 22nd in Bountiful. Get details at noblehousedesign.com. That's noblehousedesign.com.
Introducing Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. We're bringing all of Utah's favorite HVAC, plumbing, and electrical brands under one roof. Call Yes today and we'll waive the service call fee with any HVAC, plumbing, or electrical system repair. The expert technicians at Yes are available 7 days a week to fix all of your heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical problems. Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Proudly serving Utah for more than 45 years. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
Hey, this is Chris with JCW's. Are your kids picky eaters? Bring them in and try our chicken fingers or a grilled cheese sandwich. They'll be smiling big in no time. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, the 2 candidates who gathered signatures to qualify for the primary election ballot in Utah's 2nd Congressional District had to put out massive and expensive efforts to get the job done in just a few weeks. Second, Steve Young stepping in to be a high school flag football coach for his daughter's team. Third, a scheduled hearing on UFOs or UAPs is set to start next Wednesday in the House Oversight Committee. Right now, it's 81 degrees and partly sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We're at the tail end of our conversation with Hugo Ricard Bell, who's obviously been reporting on this online site through the Department of Public Safety, where if you're a private gun owner, you're going to sell your gun, you can go online now to DPS and actually run the serial number and know if the person that you're selling it to is a felon or has some sort of long criminal background. We were at the tail end of that, Dave, and I got this text message from Representative Corey Malloy, who said, "You want me to call in? It's his legislation." So I said, "Yeah, let's get you on the air," and he's on the line right now.
So this search, you put in the...
Yeah, I got to it. So I went to the Department of Public Safety. No offense to DPS, but the website is a little tough to navigate. I've been navigating it for years. Probably needs a little bit of an update. But you have to scroll down and you find this little link. It says go to this website. It's in fine print. You can't hardly see it. But I got to the website and you put in the concealed firearm permit number and then you put in the gun serial number and then you submit it. So it says the service allows you to check the validity of the concealed fire permit and whether, this is about, maybe I'm on the wrong site, Representative. So walk me through this. How does this work if I want to check somebody's background, not the gun's background, but somebody's background?
Well, you're really not checking anybody's background. You can hear me okay, right?
Yeah, we got you. Go for it. We got you. Thanks, Corey.
Great. You're not really checking anybody's background. All you're doing is putting in that carry permit number, and all it does is tell you if it's valid or not. So if someone's permit has expired, it's going to come back and say it's invalid. If it's a valid permit, all you know is that it's valid. You don't have any other information. You don't know anything about the person other than they have a permit and that it's valid. And if you and I'm sure you know this, but it's a pretty lengthy process of background checks and fingerprinting and so on to get that permit. So all of that work is already done.
I see.
So, responsible gun owners who want to buy and sell in a private transaction, it just gives them just a little bit more assurance that they're dealing with someone that's reputable. And then if you want, you can put the serial number in and see if it's been reported stolen. And that's the only information it provides. It's like, we ran that serial number. It has been reported stolen. And if it hasn't been reported stolen, there's no information. So that's the key thing, was to create something that could allow responsible gun owners to have these private transactions with a little more assurance that nothing's going to happen down the road, and but not infringe on anybody's rights, not make it required or so on. So it's completely voluntary. And what you were saying earlier in the show is true. If it came back with saying it was invalid permit and yes, it's been reported stolen, you could still complete the transaction, but you don't have to do any of this now. And so this is not something we wanted to make a requirement. We just wanted to make it for responsible gun owners to have that added assurance.
So if I have a gun and I'm trying to sell it, I would just have to ask that individual that's interested in buying my gun. I would just ask them for their number. How willingly do folks give that number out? I mean, it's not like we give out social security numbers or driver's license numbers easily. Is that something you anticipate that people will share willingly?
I think it depends on the individuals. I think you're going to have some people say, no, I don't want to do that. And then the other person may decide, well, I'm not feeling comfortable selling it to you. And quite honestly, most people that I know who have done private transactions do some sort of that form of getting that kind of information anyway. They ask for a carry permit, driver's license. They may take an image of it and keep it with a bill of sale that they create. That's what I did. That's how I would do it. I wouldn't sell a firearm to anybody unless I could see their permit and their driver's license, and I kept that information, for my own protection, basically. And so this just takes it a step further in allowing you to see if a firearm has been reported stolen. There could be scenarios where someone has a firearm that they want to sell and have no idea that it's been reported stolen if they had purchased it from an individual before.
Yeah.
So that's the purpose of it. I think the gun community is going to look at this and they're going to go, okay, what is this? They might be a little wary about it, but I think over time people will see the benefits of it and that it's just an enhancement of what they're probably already doing anyway. It gives them that added assurance.
Representative Corey Malloy has been working on, and now this new legislation has been implemented. It is an online search engine through the Utah Department of Public Safety. You can go online if you're selling a gun, and you can run the person you're selling it to. You can run their concealed firearm permit number, and you can tell if they do have a concealed carry permit. And what you're saying, Representative, is that background check that the state has done on that concealed carry permit before it's issued kind of vets the person as have not committed like a series of felony offenses through his or her lifetime. And in fact, if they're issued a concealed carry permit, they pass the background. And therefore, if you're the gun seller and the buyer comes back as a valid, concealed carry permit holder, you're pretty assured that they've got a clean background.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay.
Does it concern you at all that having this website available, even though it's not mandated, it's not required, that if you were to sell a gun and that gun was ultimately used in a crime, that you could be held negligent for having not done some sort of background, even though it's not mandatory?
I would have to look into the laws to be sure, but so I'm hesitant to give you a yes or no answer on that. But I would say this doesn't change any laws that are currently on the books. So, for example, you're not allowed to sell a stolen firearm. You're not allowed to sell a firearm to a felon or someone who's on the firearm restricted list. And so, sometimes you don't always know that. And so, but we also live in a state that allows for private sales of firearms. And so it doesn't change any of those laws. It's simply a tool to allow people to have that assurance that, I'm opposed to gun violence. It's, anybody commits crimes with a firearm is breaking the law across the board. And I don't want to be a participant in that. And so for me, it's another tool. It just makes sure that if I either want to purchase or sell a firearm in a private transaction, I can have that assurance that that carry permit that they have is valid. And I think most people, if they had any of those that came back saying saying it wasn't valid or it was reported stolen, for me, that would be a no-go, Yep. Other people, maybe not, but I think
for those responsible, yeah, absolutely. It makes all the sense in the world. Representative Corey Malloy, thank you for listening, and thank you for joining us.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour: a Southern Utah teen is recovering after being stranded overnight in the Narrows in Zion National Park, spending the night cold and alone in the canyon. KSL News Radio's Hugo Rickard Bell has details.
14-year-old Aloha Joy was on a hike in the Narrows when she took a wrong turn and ended up stranded and alone.
It was definitely terrifying. I was so scared that I was going to get stuck in there.
She called out and tried to find her hiking group.
But when they didn't come, I kind of got scared. It was getting dark, so I just kind of hunkered down and waited till the morning.
When morning came, a couple found her and returned her to the Zion rescue groups. Hugo Rickard Bell, KSL News Radio.
A pregnant woman from Layton and her 4 children are missing. KSL News Radio's Michael Commit reports.
Police are searching for 35-year-old Elizabeth Rebecca Dunlap Tracy, who left her home along with her 4 children around 1 a.m. yesterday morning. Law enforcement wasn't notified until later on. Tracy was seen on video packing supplies and medicine, but there's no mention of where she's heading or if her children are in any danger. Anyone with information on Tracy's whereabouts should call Layton Police. Michael Commits, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Law enforcement officials in Texas are responding to a complaint filed by a state trooper about what he called inhumane treatment of migrants along the U.S.-Mexico border. ABC's Jim Ryan reports from Dallas.
That state trooper insists that when he came upon more than 100 exhausted, thirsty migrants camped on the U.S. side of the Rio Grande, he was ordered to push them back into the river. But Texas Department of Public Safety Lieutenant Chris Olivares insists that
at no point have any of our troopers received a directive to physically push migrants back into the river.
Olivares says personnel deployed to the border are told to push back migrants.
What that means is to verbally tell them, go to a port of entry.
But the Justice Department is looking into claims of mistreatment of migrants. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
Your money at this moment: the Dow is in the green, 267 points. The S&P is off 17 points. The NASDAQ has lost 213 points. Coming up, things are heating back up for the weekend. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
Would you be upset if you lost $111,000 in retirement income?
Get this, 96% of Americans, 96%, lose an average of $111,000 in Social Security income. Learn how you could avoid this in a free report, the Social Security Decisions Guide from Boss Retirement Solutions, a 5-time winner of Utah's Best of State Award. If you've saved at least $200,000 and have not filed for Social Security, get this free report by calling 801-682-4448. This free report is loaded with critical information that can help you avoid losing $111,000 in Social Security income. So call 801-682-4448. That's 801-682-4448. Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. Introducing 24/7 Lifeguard Protection, only from Simply Safe Home Security. Now, monitoring agents can see and speak to intruders through our new indoor camera to help stop crime in real time and for fast police response. Get 20% off any new system with Fast Protect monitoring at simplysafe.com/radio. Advanced home security, 24/7 professional monitoring for less than $1 a day. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
The Angie's List you know and trust is now Angie, and we're so much more than just a list. We still connect you with top local pros and show you ratings and reviews, but now we also let you compare upfront prices on hundreds of projects and book a service instantly. We can even handle the rest of your project from start to finish. So remember, Angie's List is now Angie, and we're here to get your job done right. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
Are you or someone you take care of as their caregiver living with Alzheimer's disease? This study just might be for you. Consider participating in Athira's clinical trial exploring a novel repair and regenerative approach to Alzheimer's disease. Pantheon Clinical Research in Salt Lake City is looking for people with mild to moderate dementia, 55 to 85 years old. A consistent caregiver or support person is necessary for the conduct of this study. This study is a late-stage clinical study of an investigational drug for the treatment of mild to moderate Alzheimer's disease. Pantheon Clinical Research has over 30 years' experience with clinical trials. They conduct their business with professionalism, efficiency, and integrity. Contact Pantheon Clinical Research in Salt Lake City today. Again, call Pantheon Clinical Research today at 385-281-0550. That's 385-281-0550. Or go to pantheonclinical.com. That's pantheonclinical.com.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Ricky Meese.
This is going to be heavy delays on I-15 in Box Elder County due to construction. Once again today, on the northbound side, they go from Willard Bay all the way to just past the 8991 junction at Brigham City, and southbound I-15 you are bogged down starting just after Honeyville down to the Brigham City exit. Again, this is road work. You're going to see big backups, and they could last for an hour or longer. Fill up your bucket list in Box Elder County. History, recreation, and wildlife, along with excellent dining and shopping, await you. Find out more at visitboxeldercounty.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, partly sunny skies today, warm. It's 96 degrees for our high. Maybe a few leftover thunderstorms after yesterday, mostly in the mountainous areas. We do have a weather alert for excessive heat watch Saturday through Monday. Right now it's 82 degrees and partly sunny at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
Well, here's the headline I'm looking at. There's a couple of them, and this has been a big story that has been certainly covered quite extensively across the nation. We haven't talked about it yet on the show, but we will right now with Boyd Matheson. And this is from the R Street Institute. Democrats are eyeing the wrong approach to Tuberville's blanket hold. What is that specifically? Well, it has to do with Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville. He has placed a blanket hold on more than 200 military nominations. including 5 Joint Chiefs of Staff members, to prevent the Senate from confirming them. And there's a reason why he's done this.
This goes back to February.
Mhm.
The protest, from Tuberville's point of view, is a protest the Department of Defense's abortion policy. Boyd, joining us right now, boil it down for us. Like, what's the purpose behind that, and why go after the military nominations? And I think what surprised me most is, one senator can do this?
So there's several layers to this whole thing. So first, let's just say in terms of the consequences of where we are, it is significant. So these promotions within the military, from the Joint Chiefs to a bunch of other mid-level folks, they have to be confirmed by the Senate. The fact that they haven't been means those people can't move to a new base. They can't enroll their kids in a new school. They can't take over a command. And so the impact is significant. Now, to your point, Dave, can one senator actually stop all of that? The answer is no. By the Senate's own rules, they can. He's put this blanket hold, and all that means is that the Senate cannot do it by what's called unanimous consent, which is how a lot of things get done in the Senate.
Yeah.
They go in and say, any objections? Nobody's in the room, and it passes without a vote. Which allows both sides to not have to vote on really hard things. You just do it by unanimous consent, and I wasn't there. So it kind of gives people an out that way. So the interesting thing to me is you've got those on the left that are talking a lot in terms of this is threatening our national security, that one single senator is putting us at risk.
Here's Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, to your point.
Look, the bottom line is very simple. Now, as of today, both Senators McConnell and Thune, the Republican leaders, they opposed what Senator Tuberville is doing, risking our military security, and it's up to them. They have to put the pressure on him to back off.
Is that true?
Partially. They can put pressure on him to back off. So Senator Tuberville's doing this to make his point against the abortion policy, and that's a whole nother discussion for another day.
Well, so let me just take a little quick time out so our listeners are in the loop. What I'm reading about this abortion policy, what he wants, according to Politico, Tuberville has blocked consideration of more than 200 stalled military promotions, demanding that the Pentagon overturn its policy of providing paid leave to service members seeking an abortion.
That is correct.
Now, to me, that says female service members, because
Correct,
obviously, no. But what I don't know is does that also prevent a male service member for taking leave because his significant other needs to seek an abortion?
I think the policy is very narrow.
Is it directed at females?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a very narrow ruling there, and I think there are some things that people look at and say, okay, well, the military will pay for your travel, your hotel to go get an abortion, but they won't pay for Dave to go to his mother's funeral or take time off or have travel and so on. So it's one of those things where there's a lot of nuances, a lot of things to it. That's why I say.
I just wanted to make sure we had some sort of an idea.
Yeah. So the rules of the Senate are all designed to protect the minority vote. So every senator has one vote. And so this is Senator Tuberville's way of saying, look, I'm going to make it a little harder for you to do other things because I think we need to have a discussion about this on the floor of the Senate. That's all he's doing. If the Senate would simply follow their own rules, all 200 of those nominees could have, would have, and should have been done months ago. They could still get this all done under the rules of the Senate before they leave for their August recess. But they're choosing to use it as a political point.
I see.
Rather than doing the right thing. So for all of those that are screaming about this is a national security issue, how can one awful Republican senator uphold the entire security of the United States of America? That's just not true. That is a false choice in terms of what the Senate could do. The Senate could do this today. If they wanted to do this today, they could do this today.
Yeah, because this is not a law that needs 60 votes. This is a simple majority, correct?
Simple majority,
which the Democrats own.
They have that. That's right. And you'd have a large number of Republicans who would jump on board that as well. But this is one more really horrible example of how the politics is overriding the process and the simple rules of the Senate that actually make this really easy. Chuck Schumer could go to the floor of the Senate right now and start bringing these things up. And there's all kinds of even little sub rules. You could even invoke, if let's say Senator Tuberville tried to do a filibuster or just wanted to keep going. He can do that, but once he stops talking, it's over, and it would be over. And there's even a rule that says you can only speak twice in one legislative day as a senator. And do you know that a legislative day can actually last for a year? So there's 47 different ways they could get this done. The sad thing is that they're not getting it done, and it is impacting military families. It is impacting military command, and it's inexcusable for left and right alike to hold this hostage to score political points.
Boyd, when you use the term fake fight, is this what you think of?
Yeah.
Is this the very example you use?
Yeah, because think about it. I mean, everybody is upset. It's like, well, how can one senator do that? How can one senator be so wrong and do it? It's like, no, there's 99 senators in there. If they would just step up and do their job, this would be over.
You don't even have to wait till tomorrow to fix it. You can fix it now.
Right now.
Right
Get
now.
going. Yeah. And it might take them a few days to work through, depending on which rules they want to use. And the Senate can, by the way, always change their rules as well. They have power to do that.
Boyd, thank you. Thanks for bringing that perspective. We want to get to breaking news because I'm watching the monitors here, and President Biden speaking live in Philadelphia right now about what else but Bidenomics. Let's listen.
Instead of exporting jobs, used to be find the cheapest market in the world, send the job overseas and bring the product back. Not on my watch. What here we're doing, we're creating jobs in America and we're exporting American products. With the leadership of your Democratic members of Congress, we passed the Inflation Reduction Act, although a few Republicans did support it. The largest investment to combat climate ever, anywhere in the world. Over $368 billion.
That's President Biden at a campaign event. A big thank you for Boyd Matheson also for joining us. Again, Inside Sources from 1 to 3 every day on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
The July heat wave.
Triple digits are returning this weekend.
Means we're all on fire watch.
54% of fire starts this year have been human caused.
Stay updated on the risk of wildfire. Listen to Tim and Amanda mornings from 5 to 9 and Jeff Kaplan on the drive home from 3 to 7. Utah Fire Watch on KSL News Radio.
Quality, speed, value for your money, and $1,000 off any roof replacement. That's the IWC advantage. IWC, Intermountain West Contractors, delivers on the things most important to you when it comes time to replace your roof. There could be a dozen different reasons why your roof needs replacement, but just one answer to the problem: IWC. With IWC, you get quality because roof replacement is their specialty, and each job comes complete with the best warranties from the most trusted roofing material manufacturer in America. You get speed because IWC understands your time is valuable. In most cases, they can replace an entire roof in just one day. And with IWC, there's the value of knowing they use top-tier quality materials in every installation and deliver it all at an affordable price. And now, for a limited time, save $1,000 on a roof replacement project. Visit IWCroofing.com or call 801-232-5690. That's 801-232-5690.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay. Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
At Your Service Pros Heating and Air recently received the following review on Yelp. I'm so glad I got a second opinion from At Your Service Pros. They identified the same items of work to be done, but gave me a much more realistic quote. I'll definitely use them again. Thanks, Seth. We're glad we were able to do the repairs for less than half of what the other company quoted him. There's a reason we're one of the highest rated companies on both Google and Yelp. If you want a free second opinion on your HVAC repairs, give us a call at 801-YOUR-PRO. That's 801-YOUR-PRO.
When you crash your car, you get it fixed. When your
computer crashes, you get a new one. But what will you do if you've been saving in a 401k or an IRA and the market crashes? If you're in your 30s or 40s, you'll be just fine. But if you're in or near retirement, you could be in trouble. Mike Stevens and his team at Capital Wealth Advisors are here to help. They can run a risk analysis to see if you're too heavily invested in the market. Don't let the ups and downs of Wall Street control you or your retirement dreams. Call 801-210-5500 today to schedule your risk analysis with Mike Stevens and the team at Capital Wealth Advisors. That's 801-210-5500. Crashes happen. Question is, are you ready? Capital Wealth Advisors, 801-210-5500. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
Experiencing pain? Call New Spine Chiropractic on 4 Union. Take advantage of their Pioneer Day special. Schedule today and get your first adjustment free. Visit newspine.com/midvale.com.
Don't be worried. Be ready. KSL News Radio is partnering with Be Ready Utah to provide the plans your family needs for an emergency, the tools and supplies to keep on hand, and the knowledge on how to keep a cool head. It's Be Ready Utah. Listen for Be Ready tips and tools each Tuesday with Dave and Dujanovic. Plus, find the latest preparation info at beready.utah.gov. That's beready.utah.gov. Be Ready, Utah, with KSL News Radio.
Tim and Amanda.
If this is the first time you've ever joined us, can we just say welcome, welcome? I hope you come back and see us again. Tim and I have been doing this for a long time, and we love what we do. But the best part of what we do always and will always be connecting with you.
How many times do we say people don't understand how much information and really love we get from that side of the radio?
Yes.
They thank us for giving it to them, but we get it back so many times.
Wake up with Utah's Morning News with Tim and Amanda, 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio. This week's movie show, Barbie and Oppenheimer, I believe, is brought to you by My Hearing Centers. Learn about the amazing new Signia X hearing aid and find out how you could win a free pair from My Hearing Centers.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, a southern Utah teen is recovering after being stranded overnight in the Narrows in Zion National Park. Second, a pregnant woman from Layton and her 4 children are missing. Police think she left on her own accord, but it's unknown if the children are in danger. Third, officials in Texas are responding to a complaint by a state trooper about inhumane treatment of migrants along the U.S.-Mexico border. Right now, it's 82 degrees and partly sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
There is a lot going on right now in China, especially with the economy. And right now we're going to talk specifically about the communist China regime. And we've heard for years from politicians about the fear.
A global order led by China would be something which the world could not possibly endure.
In every aspect, the Chinese regime grows and centralizes the power of government at the expense of free citizens and free markets.
Now, make no mistake about it, China is critical to the global economy. Second largest economy in the world behind the United States. And it has been growing at a record pace for 3 decades now. There have been recent reports that have shown China's economy is slowing way down, that it has not recovered since the pandemic. It's scary for China, certainly, and the people of China. And whispers of a recession or even a depression, I think, could even rock the world economy.
Yeah, so often when we do talk about communist China, it's almost like they're ready to take over the world. But perhaps China isn't the unstoppable juggernaut that it is often portrayed. Their labor market is struggling. Did you know this? The youth unemployment rate in China, 21%. Mm-hmm. That's incredible. 1 out of every 5.
Can you imagine?
That's an enormous
number. In fact, our
number.
jobless claims dropped again this week. We just got the jobs claim report during Utah's Morning News. I was listening. And yet in China, that 21%, your child couldn't find a job, doesn't have a job.
Yeah, that was one of the most shocking numbers that I've seen. And we do know that Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, recently made a trip to China. So the United States is trying to warm up some relations, improve things, but I wanted to learn more about China and their situation, what's going on there. So we reached out to Desmond Lockman. He's a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Thanks for joining us, Desmond.
My pleasure.
Okay, one of the most notable things about China is obviously the enormous population, 1.4 billion people. It's 4 times the population of the United States, even though we're roughly the same geographic size. But what role does this enormous population play in their economy in this recent downturn?
Yeah, well, a large population allows you to have a large economy. So China's economy might be approaching the size of that of the United States, but that's because they've got roughly 4 times as many people as we do. But their living standards are way below our living standards. What's also happening with their population is that it's now declining. So when they had many workers on whom to call, brought them in from the countryside, the country could power ahead. But their demographics are awful because of their one-child policy that they had some time ago. So what we're already seeing is we're seeing the population declining. It began to decline in 2022, and we're seeing the labor force, the number of people in the labor force is declining. So that is one factor that's going to weigh heavily against China going forward, making it difficult for China to resume the growth of 6, 7, 8% a year that they had consistently for 30 years. Now, there's something else that's very much amiss with the Chinese economy, is that they've overinvested in property. They've built far too many houses, far too many office blocks. They've loaded up with debt. So they've had an enormous property and credit market bubble. So there's a strong likelihood that China is going to go the same way that Japan went in the 1990s. If you recall, Japan grew at a very rapid rate, and we thought Japan was going to eat our lunch, and we got really very worried about it. And then Japan fizzled because they mismanaged the economy. They had too big a property market boom, too much credit going out. And that's precisely what is occurring in China. You're just seeing a lot of the property companies go belly up, and this is likely to weigh on their growth. So my expectation is that we're going to see China not crashing the way in which the United States did in 2008, 2009, with the great economic recession, with the Lehman Brothers and the housing bust that we had that precipitated a problem. They've got too much control of the economy. But what is very likely is that an economy that used to be growing at 8% a year suddenly feels lucky if they grow at 2 or 3%. And the bottom line is they're not going to overtake the United States economy. I think that this is another instance of our getting worried like we were about Russia, like we were about Japan, that they're growing very rapidly for a while, but they're growing on a very unsustainable basis. They turn out to have clay feet.
Desmond Lockman is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. There's been so much happening and so much news about what is going on in China's economy that we're grateful to have you on the air with us today to help walk us through and get a better understanding. I want to drill down on the housing market more. I was just doing a lot of reading and listening to some podcasts in the last few days about this, and I was fascinated to learn, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I may have misinterpreted what I was listening to, but in China, the people there don't pay taxes, that in fact the government gets much of its money from these land leases, if you will, where the home builder doesn't own the land, but in fact leases or borrows the land to put and that's how they get their money. And so when the housing market starts to slow, then you can see the trickle down that government isn't taking in as much money. Did I interpret that right, Desmond?
Yeah, that's basically correct, is that the local governments, that a big source of their revenue is land sales. So if we get a property market bust like we're getting right now, those land sales dry up, and these governments then find themselves running big deficits and not able to pay the debt, and then the central government has to bail them out. So, that's part of the property market story. So it's not just that households, this is most of their wealth. So if house prices begin declining, they don't feel too good, but the local governments then get themselves into big financial problems. So this whole property and credit market bubble that China created for themselves, and it's a huge bubble, because if you look at the amount of credit that's been extended in China, to the private sector, it was much larger than that which preceded our bust in 2008, our housing bust, and it exceeded that in Japan. This is one of the biggest credit market bubbles known to mankind. So it's very likely that they're going to struggle with too much debt and that they're going to have real problems. To answer your question, in the local governments are going to have real difficulty. They're really going to have to get bailed out. They're going to have trouble for a long time to come. So, this is a saga that we're going to see over the next few years, that China is just going to slow. If you're wanting to look for a silver lining about all of this, it's that this will help us on the inflation front, because China is the world's largest consumer of most international traded commodities. So, for instance, like if China slows a lot, oil prices are low, iron ore prices are low, copper is low. All of that helps spread deflationary forces through the world economy. But, from a point of view of growth, all of China's trading partners are going to have to learn to live without having China as this big and continually growing market to whom they can sell their goods.
Fascinating. Desmond Lockman, thank you so much for joining us. Senior Fellow at American Enterprise Institute. I've been reading your work. I read it in Barron's, and really insightful. Much of this, I don't think the American people really understand what's going on in China. I have so many more questions for you. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Please allow us to tap into your expertise at another time. Debbie, I thought you asked a great question just to me in between. And you said, well, what does that standard of living look like in China? Because when you're comparing the economies, sure, they're number two behind us, who's number one, but they're also 4 times the population of the United States. Mm-hmm. So how does that translate to standard of living?
And the jobless claims.
Incredible joblessness.
Yeah.
1 in 5 youth cannot find a job right now.
Can we slate Desmond for an invite for sometime next week? Caitlin, our producer, just gave me the thumbs up. So we're gonna put him on the agenda because we got to ask, what is the standard of living there right now for the people in China? Straight ahead, House Speaker Brad Wilson joining the show. Want to ask him what the latest is on that redistricting lawsuit at the Supreme Court. Next.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Britt Johnson. KSL's top story this hour. Firefighters are making major progress in the lightning-caused fire burning near Flaming Gorge. The fire caused an evacuation of the Mustang Ridge campground yesterday. The Sunny Cove fire was 70% contained as of last night. It burned through almost 250 acres so far. 4,000 Utahns are going to get student loan debt relief from the U.S. government.
The Biden administration says it will be able to pay out $39 billion across the country and promise student loan relief. It's been a long time back and forth battle to get the initial plan up and running. Here in Utah, that settled out to about $200 million in debt relief. Borrowers who still qualify have been emailed by the U.S. Department of Education, and the debt relief will go into effect in 30 days. Kate Davis, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The extreme weather wreaking havoc around the globe. Urgent evacuations in Greece as wildfires rage outside of Athens.
Firefighters racing to stop 6 wildfires from threatening more homes and lives in Greece. Overnight reinforcements arriving from countries across Europe. Urgent evacuations underway. Officials rushing to evacuate and help residents as smoke fills city streets.
ABC's Marcus Moore reporting from Greece. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 261 points, but the S&P has lost 16 points, and the NASDAQ has lost 208 points. Coming up, how hot will it get? KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
This summer, the political season heats up.
By August, it'll be time for debates. Can you believe it?
We're planning coverage of the real issues, the important stories that impact how we live.
Listen each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
I guess it's human nature, Amanda, that no matter how much money we have in our savings account, it never seems like it's enough. And if you find yourself in that mode right now, let us direct you over to our friends at UCCU. They are wanting to help you supercharge your savings.
UCCU is offering high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.5%. All you do is go to UCCU.com and select a high-rate savings option to do just what you said, supercharge your savings.
You're going to get a much bigger return on your savings right now. It's a savings certificate, which means you make one deposit up front and your money grows over a fixed period of time. So you can have that grow over 5 years, but UCCU has created some very short-term savings certificates with high yields, short like 6 months, 9 months, or a year.
So you decide how long do you want to put that money. You deposit money, a one-time only deposit, and then you let it stay in. The longer it stays in there, the higher the interest rate you earn.
And if you need immediate access to your money, UCCU's Money Market will give you a high yield and anytime access.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
After a long winter, it's finally that time again. Pack your picnics, bring your family and friends, and get ready for memorable musical summer evenings. The Deer Valley Music Festival with the Utah Symphony is back. Deer Valley Music Festival favorite Capathia Jenkins returns with her powerful voice and stunning stage presence. Here's some of the greatest hits in soul and R&B featuring music by the leading ladies you know and love, including Whitney Houston, Gladys Knight, Adele, and more, all performed live with the Utah Symphony. Escape into the music and the mountains July 21st in Park City. Then on July 22nd, multi-platinum selling acclaimed singer-songwriter Leanne Rimes takes the stage with her chart-topping hits How Do I Live, Can't Stop the Moonlight, and so much more. Don't miss this legend as she stops in Utah with her latest tour, The Story So Far, joined by the world-class Utah Symphony. Get your tickets today at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios?
No, we tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our clients' best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structured, so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly, different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
Hey, this is Chris from JCW's. If anything rivals our burgers, it's our bacon. It makes the perfect combination with our guacamole, jalapeno, or our hickory barbecue burgers. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
It looks like we've got emergency traffic brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Ricky Meese.
It's a drag on I-15 in Box Elder County, and it could be either direction due to road work. Now, the northbound side of traffic is easing a bit, but you'll still see a slow drive northbound from Willard into Perry, but it's southbound I-15 that remains just very slow and go with only a right lane of travel open. This starts after Honeyville and continues down to the Brigham City exit at Highway 8991. Fed Up Kitchen's newest meal prep location is open at 2440 South Main Street in Woods Cross. Use code FOUNDING50 for 20% off your first order, 10% off for a year. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, it's only going to get hotter from here. Our high today is 96 degrees with partly cloudy skies, but temps will climb and top out on Sunday, reaching up to 105 degrees. For St. George, that could be up to 112. Right now, it's 84 degrees and sunny at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Eye on the Hill 2023. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
We got Utah Speaker of the House, Brad Wilson, waiting on the line right now. A couple of things to talk to him about. First, the redistricting lawsuit that landed before the Utah Supreme Court. Don't have a decision from the court yet, but want to get his take on how arguments went and why he feels like the state will prevail on this.
Yeah, and just to catch you up, I know because this happened a while ago, but essentially there was an initiative that created a independent redistricting commission. So every 10 years after the census is done, we got to redraw the lines for the congressional bounds, both on the state level and the federal level. So these maps were drawn up by this independent commission. They were submitted for approval, and the state legislatures said, you know what, we don't love those maps. We're going to go with the ones that we have drawn. And then that ended up in a lawsuit. The lawsuit was, why didn't you use those maps drawn by the independent commission?
Brad Wilson, good morning, House Speaker.
Good morning.
So remind us, why didn't the legislature use those maps that were drawn up by the independent commission?
You know, the legislature went through a very thorough process, traveling across the state, listening to Utahns from rural Utah to urban Utah, learning what their concerns and thoughts were about redistricting, including looking at the 3 different maps that the commission recommended. And ultimately, the legislature made a decision to create 4 districts in the state of Utah that represented both urban and rural Utah, so that all 4 members of our delegation had constituents that had urban and rural people living in the district. And we think that that is the right policy choice. We think that having our delegation understanding rural Utah and urban Utah needs is the right way to divide up our state.
Who made up, will you mind remind me, who made up the redistricting commission and how were they appointed?
You know, it was I don't have it right in front of me, but it's a combination of different individuals, some appointed from different organizations, some appointed from government officials, different constituencies made up that commission.
House Speaker Brad Wilson live on the line with us, as he is often on Thursday mornings. Appreciate your time, House Speaker Wilson. My understanding from our reporting here is that you attended the arguments before the Supreme Court. I'm sure you're not going to tell me if I ask you the question, do you think the state's going to win? I'm sure you're not going to say no. But when do you think that you'll hear a ruling on this, one way or the other?
Well, it was a really fascinating and interesting experience, and I thought the justices did a great job asking really hard questions of both sides and really tried to understand the perspective of both sides. It was a fun experience. My sense is they're going to take their time, that they want to understand these issues thoroughly. They're going to study them. They've asked for some supplemental information. So, you know, your guess is as good as mine, Deb, but probably sometime later this fall would be kind of my best thinking.
Ultimately, could you summarize for our listeners the idea, and the argument was that the state legislature doesn't have the right to override the initiative that was passed back in 2018. Why is that the case? Why do you think that you had the right, or that the legislature had the right to do that?
Well, there's different ways to create state law, and one way to create state law is for lawmakers to draft and create state law. Another lane to create state law is for an initiative to do that. And you'll see on a regular basis lawmakers go in and have to adjust state code. And really what you saw with the initiative creating the Independent Redistricting Commission was we kept an independent redistricting commission in place, but there were some constitutional concerns about it. And so through negotiations, we went in and made some changes to it so that we felt it would hold up to constitutional muster. And if you create a process, and this is one of the arguments, if you create a process where an initiative is something that can't ever be amended, you actually give it the same authority as a constitutional amendment, which is very, very different than passing just a state law. And so these initiatives become super laws. And if, for example, you had an initiative that had some kind of technical problem or some kind of problem that had an unintended consequence, and you couldn't go in and fix it or remedy it later, that creates real problems for the state. So it's not a great policy choice to have these super laws, which an initiative could become if it could never be changed.
House Speaker Brad Wilson joining us right now, talking about redistricting and the lawsuit that the state is facing over the redistricting maps. I want to turn the conversation in the direction of this lawsuit that has been filed by Republican Quinn Denning against the GOP choice for the primary ballot for Congressional District 4, who's Celeste Malloy. He's filed this lawsuit saying that in fact, this is just for our listeners. I'm sure you're familiar with it, House Speaker Wilson, that Malloy was not properly registered as a Republican, that she had some issues with her residency because she was living in Virginia for a time while serving for Representative Chris Stewart as counsel for him. You had issued a statement, and sadly for you, I follow you on Facebook, and I saw that statement pop up a couple of weeks ago about this situation and these questions that had come up, and it looked like the legislature had looked into these allegations and that you didn't feel like you had any standing, any say at all that you could somehow get involved in this issue. But that at the end of the statement, you said, Ms. Malloy's declaration of candidacy, you don't have any sort of, you can't weigh in on it as lawmakers, but perhaps that somebody could do so, seek recourse through the courts. So were you advocating at that point for a lawsuit to happen?
No, that's not the case necessarily, Deb. Good question, though. You know, there's different roles for different branches of government, right? And the legislative branch's role is primarily to create state law. And if people feel like, or organizations feel like state law is not being followed, the typical avenue that they have is to seek remedy through the courts to have those issues resolved and fixed. And so what we did through that letter that was released is there were all kinds of different narratives out there as to what the chain of events were, what the real set of facts were. And we were finding that there was a lot of revisionist history going on. And so President Adams and I just issued a joint statement saying, as far as we can tell, here is the set of facts that we can see. Everyone can take these set of facts and choose to do with them what they will. And we were getting called upon by different folks to do different things. And we were just saying, hey, listen, if you feel like something didn't happen the way it should have, the right path is for you to follow the normal remedy, which would be to seek remedy through the courts.
So are you saying then definitively that Utah lawmakers cannot get involved in this process?
Well, there's a way we can get involved. We can hold hearings up on Capitol Hill. We can, of course, go in, and I think you will see the legislature this next session probably go in and clarify some of these areas that are up for maybe some scrutiny, that left some ambiguity, that have created some of these uncertainties. But that's the extent that I think you'll see lawmakers wade in at this point.
One of the things that Dave brought up earlier, we were talking about on the show, is this idea that somebody can kind of become, I guess their registration can become dormant. And, you know, even a lot of folks didn't even realize that. Would that be something that the legislature would work on to clarify so people don't fall in this category of their, you know, if they don't vote for a particular election or a couple of elections, they go into this holding pattern on the voter rolls?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, what caused some of the questions around Celeste Malloy's status was she was in what was called a removable status. And what does exactly that mean? Does that mean her party affiliation is then negated, or does her party affiliation stay intact? And that's what, in fact, I believe is probably going to be litigated through this lawsuit. I haven't seen the language of it, but so that's the question, Deb.
Now, there's no question, obviously, as a leader of the Republican Party here in Utah, personally speaking, are you comfortable with how Celeste Malloy became the convention nominee?
She worked very hard through that process, and the delegates made their decision that day, and the party sent her name through. So she is, without a doubt, the party's nominee at this point. And, so that's that as far as I'm concerned.
Utah House Speaker Brad Wilson, thank you for joining us.
And I'm sure you will be, and every Republican in Utah will be watching this lawsuit. We don't know when the judge will hold the first hearing. I'm sure our reporter Lindsay Aerts will be tracking that for us and bring it to us as soon as she knows any more information out of the courts.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Before Dave and Debbie get started each day, this station is all news all morning.
And later today, we follow up on those stories as you drive home.
Get important news all morning and all afternoon.
Here on KSL News Radio.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. The day Zions Bank opened for business in 1873, the Deseret News reported that it promises to be one of the most important and beneficial institutions ever established in this part of the Union. Zions Bank Executive Vice President Rob Bruff is here to mark the 150th anniversary.
As Zions Bank commemorates its 150th anniversary in 2023, we are looking ahead. We pledge to continue to create value for the next 150 years. We recognize our responsibility as a leader in our communities and as the oldest financial institution headquartered in the Intermountain West. So to continue our legacy of stewardship, we are making 5 commitments to our future. First, Zions Bank commits to bolstering business growth and innovation. We will continue to support our businesses and industries that create jobs, grow our economy, and foster a sustainable future. We also commit to making our clients stronger and to fostering economic opportunity for all. We're here to help clients from all backgrounds and every rung of the economic ladder realize their dreams. We commit to supporting our valued employees, and we commit to building our communities. You'll hear more about Zions Bank's 150th anniversary celebration throughout the year.
New companies can learn from Zions Bank's recipe for longevity. Stay focused on customer service, grow the company along with the community, and invest in employee talent. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Are you finally ready to lose the fat for life? Imagine the new you and feeling good in your body without the discomfort and even pain from the excess weight. Get a free consultation today at Revive Men's Health here in Salt Lake City to assess your health and discuss if their safe and effective weight loss treatment with semaglutide is a good fit for you. They offer treatments for men, couples, women, or anyone who may need support in their weight loss goals or who may benefit from semaglutide support with pricing up to 60% less than the name brand medications. They also offer comprehensive DNA-based testing to help you understand your metabolism to make sustained weight loss, better performance, and fitness a reality. Join our satisfied patients who are maintaining substantial weight loss. Call Revive today and book your free consultation. Men, women, and couples are all welcome at Revive. Book your free appointment today, saving you $199. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Sometimes people will ask me, Tim, how do you have all the energy you have to do all the things you do? And I have to tell you, a part of it is that I lost 34 pounds, a year and a half ago, and I've kept it off all this time. And I think back to when I was heavier, I would be by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd be exhausted because we get up so early. But now I have afternoon energy, and I know it's because I'm not lugging around that 34 pounds that I had been for how many years. I did it on SOTA weight loss. SOTA stands for state of the art.
And you're going to have the energy to do more, which is then going to help keep that weight off. We've said it before, but imagine go to the gym, Pick up 34 pounds of weights and just walk around the gym for a while. It'll give you an idea of what you've been lugging around. My daughter lost 42 pounds, and she continues on the maintenance phase now. Find out how this company can help you or somebody in your family. Go to SotaWeightLoss.com, spelled S-O-T-A. Think Tim and Amanda, because Sota Weight Loss is state-of-the-art.
Back in the day, a shoemaker was called a cobbler because the stone you walked on was called cobblestone. Or was it the other way around? But before you can walk on cobblestone, you have to lay it down. Of course, you can also use cobblestone in your garden or park strips, or, well, you get the idea. But where do you get good old-fashioned cobblestone? The dirt bag. Imagine the things you can do with it in your yard and garden. If you have an imagination, the dirt bag has what you need to bring that dream to life. Rock mulch? How about 11 different rock mulches? Playground chips for the kids? Yep, the dirt bag. For topsoil, sod, bark mulches, and pathway material called chat, the dirt bag. And with a dirt bag, your garden and yard you have in your imagination can be delivered right to your driveway. Or you can pick it up in bulk yourself. There's a reason everyone loves the dirt bag. Find out what the dirt bag can do for you at thedirtbag.com. Thedirtbag.com.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Britt Johnson. First, the Sunny Cove fire near Flaming Gorge is 70% contained after burning over 250 acres. Second, 4,000 Utahns are going to get student loan debt relief from the U.S. government. Third, firefighters are racing to stop 6 wildfires from threatening more homes and lives in Greece. Right now, it's 82 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Wow, it's been a great show. It's been a great week. Band is back together. So let's end this amazing week with an amazing story of a Utah teenager. I think she's 14 years old. She got lost in the Narrows at Zion National Park, spent the night in the cold, alone in the canyon. She's on the line live right now with her mom. She survived it.
The Narrows, one of the most popular, beautiful places on earth. People come from all over the world to hike the Narrows, and it is incredible. But there is a danger to it. And anytime you're hiking out in the wilderness, whether it's the threat of weather, getting separated from people, there's always dangers. And it sounds like Aloha Joy, who joins us right now, got in a little trouble. Give us an idea. What happened?
Well, me and my family were hiking down the trail together, and some of my older siblings and cousins were going a little faster, so I decided to leave like the slower group and try to catch up. I went for a while on a tube down the deeper parts of the river until I found like this kind of cross section, and I saw footprints leading down another way and like, you know, a little pile of rocks that I just assumed that they were telling me to go up that way.
She also saw what she thought was my brother.
Yeah, I thought I saw my uncle, but I think so. I turned down the wrong canyon, and I kept
thinking confidently she was on the right trail because she thought she was following Robert.
We've also got Mom Aurelia on the line as well, Aurelia Lunsford, and 14-year-old Aloha Joy. And so, how was it spending the night there? Were you scared? Were you prepared? Give us an idea, Aloha.
So once I got stuck and didn't know where to go, it got dark, so I just decided to hunker down. It was mostly muddy where I was at, so I tried to find the driest spot, and all my food had gotten wet, so I didn't eat it. And I had this emergency poncho blanket, and I was so grateful. And I just kind of hunkered down and tried to stick it out till the morning when a very nice couple came and found me, and we were able to get our way back.
So strangers?
Yeah, they were really sweet.
That's awesome.
So you actually did have a blanket. I was thinking if you were in a tube, you were probably wet and muddy. That sounds like miserable and cold.
I was really, really freezing, but I think I would have been so much colder without that blanket. But I was lucky enough to be prepared, and I was able to, stick it out, and I was okay.
So, Mom, what was going through your mind when this was going down?
I asked her when I first saw her come out of the ambulance, who cried more that night, me or her? she thinks she did, but
my money's on Mom. My money's on Mom.
Did you keep the faith, or did you just fear the worst?
My husband, he prayed and felt confident we'd find her, but I kept going to the worst case scenario. I knew she was in front of us, and I was like, she's smart. She would have called. She would have found other people to help her. She's not just going to disappear completely. So I kept going to the worst, but I should have listened to my husband. He actually went to sleep. I couldn't believe it.
Is there anything that you either one of you would have done differently? Aloha, let's start with you. Is there any advice you can give people who are heading out the door for the Pioneer Day weekend, maybe doing some hiking? Is anything you would have done different?
Yes, I would definitely try to keep your shoes with you. Like, don't ever take them off. It was like so dumb of me to lose my shoes, and I was so much colder because of that.
And she had to hike out on the rocks without shoes. Very painful.
And I'd say also, even though you get wet, wear long pants, because my legs have never been so bruised.
Well,
like, you know.
Oh, because you were getting battered up. Is that what was happening as you were trying to climb out?
When I got stuck down the wrong canyon, I thought it was the right canyon because I saw so many footprints. So I tried to get over this big rock and I kept falling down. And but just be careful and make sure you have extra supplies, I'd say.
It was a rappel hike, the Orderville Gulch, and she threw her shoes up over the rock thinking if she was barefoot she could catch up with Robert, who wasn't Robert, but then she lost her shoes that way.
Oh.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I would say to tell people, have a better plan. Never allow, even if it's just a short distance. The faster group wasn't that far ahead of us when we let her go alone, but just always use the buddy system and have good exit plans if you do get separated.
Well, we're so happy that everything turned out well. It sounds like a harrowing night. Aloha. That's a story forever. Thank goodness it turned out well.
Yeah.
That's something I'll never forget.
No, thank you. A 14-year-old hiker lost overnight in the Narrows, and Zion found, thankfully. Sounds like she's doing great. Aloha Joy and her mother, Aurelia Lunsford, live on the line with us today to round out. This is an amazing week. Thankfully, a great ending to what could have been a very tragic story. But instead, she had, fortunately, a couple of strangers come along and help her out of the canyon.
Well, and as far as Mom and Aloha go, keeping everybody within eyesight when you're hiking, but it's easy to lose sight. There's a lot of twists and turns, easy to get lost. Fortunately, everything turned out well, but what a story. What a great outcome, though.